of the shop informed the FBI that Hunter Biden's laptop was there. The FBI seized it and found a bunch of emails on it. Rudy Giuliani gave the New York Post. They published, and then mass censorship occurred. I'm sure you're all aware, I just want to make sure I've covered it clearly, by the platform beyond the remit of what social media should be able to do. If this has become the new town square, should they be able to censor the government and prevent the government from talking to the people? That seems like, I think there's a problem there. You know, I think it's like, I'm not a hardcore libertarian or anything, you know, I've definitely got libertarian sympathies, but I think that when there's obvious power that is being exercised illegitimately in that way, and I do think it's illegitimate power, I don't believe it's morally justified at all, then I think that a serious conversation has to be had. And I think it's this that underpins the whole thing. The what kind of civilization are we going to be? You know, are we going to be the kind of civilization that does terrible things, that does these like things that we all agree are bad, that are opposed to human rights? And you can complain as much as you want about almost anything about Trump, but he's not an authoritarian. Like, he doesn't want the lockdowns, he doesn't want censorship, he doesn't want wars, he doesn't want conquests. He just wants to make America a good place to do business and for a good place for Americans to live in. Like, that's actually a fine goal, and I really think it's like that sort of goal that is why Johnny Rotten, the singer of the Sex Pistols, said that Trump is the only sensible choice in the US election. Imagine how bad you have to be for Johnny fucking Rotten to be like, oh yeah, it's got to be Trump, the alternative's hell. Like, what? For anyone who doesn't know, go and look up the Sex Pistols. Go and look up just a Wikipedia article on what they got up to, like, before I was born, you know? Like, these guys were absolute, like, anarchists, you know? I mean, they wrote a song called Anarchy in the UK. They are, so God Save the Queen, which, conspiracy theories around it are like, it only got to number 2 in the charts because they wanted, there was an intervention to prevent it from getting to number 1 and all this sort of stuff. And, very, very much anti-authority and very much anti, the status quo. And yet, Johnny Rotten is like, no, you've got to vote Trump's the only sensible choice. Like, there must be something here, right? Let's see what his reason was. He said, I'd be daft as a brush not to. He's a US citizen, by the way, that's why his opinion on that counts. He's the only sensible choice now that Biden is up. He is incapable of being the man at the helm. The paper suggested that Biden began supporting the Trump after the president was accused of racism. I've been accused of the very same thing, so I'm offended for anyone who's been called that. Of course I'm anti-racism, and obviously. It's just... But yeah, so it just... when asked about the murder of George Floyd, he replied that it was ghastly, but it doesn't mean all police are nasty or all white folk are racist, because all lives matter, and there you have it. The sort of traditional, the sort of traditional Christian moral framework of a Western democracy, all lives matter. That's the supposition. And Kirstie Alley, like all of these boomer celebrities, come and go, no, Trump. And again, I think it comes down to the fact that, like, Trump can legitimately embody a form of kind of normalcy and patriotism, right? Trump can genuinely do that, whereas Joe Biden is surrounded by this miasma of anti-Americanism and kind of self-hatred and a kind of, like, malicious criticism that is, like, the sort of thing that would be considered abusive if you saw a boyfriend doing it to a girlfriend or vice versa. You know, you would think that guy, that person needs to get out of that relationship. It's not good for them. And that's the kind of attitude and sort of ethos that you see surrounding Joe Biden in the activists. And when he starts spouting their rhetoric, you can hear it coming through his voice. Even though he doesn't hate America, obviously. Joe Biden's thrilled with America. He loves how corrupt America is. You know, he can make loads of money. He can be a politician for 47 years and live in a multi-million-dollar mansion. It's like, how does that happen on a public sector salary? That really makes you think. You know, I earn more than me personally, but, like, you know, my business earns more than, like, Joe Biden's salary, and there's no fucking way I could live in a house anywhere near as amazing as that. So it just makes you think, doesn't it? You know. But I love these boomer responses. Just kind of like, no, Chad, yeah, no, we're doing this. I'm voting for Donald Trump because he's not a politician. I voted for him 4 years ago for this reason. I shall vote again for this reason. Did she have a follow-up to that? Yeah, after posting the tweet, she revealed she'd been bombarded with criticism for snubbing Trump's rival for the White House, Joe Biden. I don't think I've ever seen so much name-calling in all my life. Anyway, I guess I'm not allowed to have a viewpoint without being called really nasty names, but I'm going to suppose they're really nasty people. Again, why are you surrounded by really nasty people, Joe? Like, the sort of like, you know, the MAGA chud Republicans, the MAGA hat wearing, you know, no, America, we love America. They aren't nasty people. I don't think they're nearly as nasty as the left-wing activists are. They seem to be just decent, honestly. Okay. Just decent. Hardworking America, I don't want to sound like a cliche. I don't mean to fluff you guys too much, but honestly, you've done much better than the left has, so keep it up. Keep it up. And so finally as well, like I said, it appears that the left-wing narratives are all just based in lies. I think everything that they say is actually a distortion of a distorted interpretation of something else that's happened. And this is really interesting. Tim Pool put a video up about this today, and I was like, right, okay, this is fascinating. So this, a couple of days ago, this has been published. So a chap called Namarata Singh Gurjal, I probably butchered that pronunciation, went to the Mexican border to, as he says, film a pro-illegal immigration and pro-caravan documentary. And it was going to be called, you know, America's Forgotten. And then, as she says, sorry, did I say he? I meant she discovered the truth behind the immigration fraud. I set out to make a film that was very pro-illegal. Immigration, pro-caravans, pro-migrants. The film ended up completely different. I think it was because I stuck with the investigation. What a thing. Oh, well, journalists sometimes stick with the investigation now. And when they do, they're like, Jesus, this is a horror show. Oh, build a wall. Build that fucking wall. Like, I was at a crossroads. Do I tell the truth and go ahead and make the film, or do I walk away from the film because it doesn't agree with me or my industry? I decided to stay truthful to my craft of filmmaking and tell the story as I saw it without bias or preconceived notions. So what she's saying is the left-wing narrative and the pressure she gets from left-wing activists is based on lies. It's not true, like we've been saying over and over for years now. The things that they say are just not true. When you look at them on the ground, you just can't match up the description to the reality. There are loads of these really awful stories. So, Gurjal told the Daily Caller that CNN did not ask about poverty, persecution, or violence in the neighborhood because none of them exist there. Why would a reporter whose job is to report the truth go there and even question it? CNN report did not provide details regarding the claim that Guru Preet's father faced religious persecution. There's something more here that meets the eye and what I'm reading in mainstream media, and I need to follow up the story and find out the truth myself. So she said that Rashida Tlaib, a Michigan Democrat, blamed the Trump administration for separating families at the border. She felt compassion for them. Now she wonders why the mother who brought the child through this harrowing experience, or didn't really need to leave where she was because there was no poverty, persecution, or violence, should not be held accountable for putting her child through this. I agree. An illegal immigrant from Mexico came to the US to study. She said in the film, Maria said that she and other women and children were raped and abused by cartel members acting as coyotes, people who smuggle immigrants across the border. Yeah, pretty fucking awful, isn't it really? Maria said the cartel promoted a warped version of America where everyone was successful and rich. She said the cartels sold her multiple times until a canine at the border alerted them to the car and the border patrol agents found them. All terrible stuff. And it just, all the like really unhealthy things that are being incentivized by the left-wing narrative. On either side of the fence, illegal immigration is a bad idea, period. No one wins except for the coyotes, the corporations, and maybe the politicians. There we go. All of the people who are opposing Donald Trump at this point, you remember. Like, don't worry about the coyotes. The people smugglers are going to oppose whoever. But the corporations and the politicians who are in favor of all this definitely are. Definitely are. The media is in favor of all this. Like, they were going to go write this documentary that's pro-illegal immigration. Americans need to do more than... Americans need facts. A few months ago, I would have absolutely voted for Biden, and I'm actually going to vote for Trump, which I never thought I'd be saying, and it's because of what I found in the movie. And I put my career on the line for this picture, and that's okay. Yes, they actually did. Like, they actually put their career on the line for this. And honestly, this is what it comes down to, isn't it? Anyway, folks, if you'd like to support the channel, you can check out our merch store. It'll be gone soon because we really are really, really close to getting the site set up and getting the business running. We've got interviews tomorrow and on Tuesday with writers / journalist position producing regular daily news content. And I'm planning to hire 2, but I don't know whether I should. Maybe I should only go for 1. Because again, I just don't know. It depends how many people sign up in the first month. If like, you know, somewhere between 5 and 10,000 people sign up, then we can probably get 2. But I guess we'll just do the first month at minimum and then expand cautiously as we land. You know, because I've never done anything like this before. I've never done anything like this before. I don't know. Man, it's stressing me out. I'm really nervous, and I've really, you know, worked my ass off for this, put my back into it, and put my ass into it. And everyone, not just me either. I keep saying me, but like it's not just me. It's like everyone has put the real work in, and like Callum and John have been so fucking diligent. I'm so fucking pleased that I took them on originally, because they just volunteered themselves to work. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I need people to help me, and they've just been boom, boom, boom on everything since. I'm really proud to be able to have them on my team. I really would like to be able to expand that, and I really hope that you guys enjoy what we're going to do. We are going to do a lot of stuff, but anyway, get to the super chat. Sorry I left all that to the end, but I wanted to get through it properly, and now my voice is dying. How's it going, chat? Bolshevism, find a cure. God,
let's see if you read our super chat.
I'm reading the biography of Lenin at the moment. There's no denying he was a mad genius. He definitely was. He's genuinely autistic, I think, is like how I would describe it. In quite a scary way. Total pathological, obsessive. Revolution. Ugh. Annabelle Reaper says, been listening to Douglas Murray and I find myself wondering 2 things, and your smarts sound like your take on them. 1, what does a fully realised social justice society look like? And 2, is there any hope for liberty? God bless you and your family. Deus Vols. That's a good question. I would say that a fully realised social justice society looks very, very much like a very bureaucratic office. I think that you have bureaucrats and government agents intervening in almost every personal relation you have, and you have a very strict code of conduct, a very tightly prescribed set of rules that you have to follow. I imagine everyone's going to end up wearing their pronouns on their lapels, or you know, in the bio of every social media account they have, and infractions are going to be frowned upon when crossing these prescribed borders. Like, you know, you misgendered me, right? You can get banned from Twitter for misgendering people. Why?
Come on.
But yeah, so like I don't think it's not free. It looks a lot like Demolition Man, I think. And I think Paul Joseph Watson's modernity video, just put it up. I just watched it before doing this. I think the sort of great point where people are being Aldous Huxley's great point of being taught to love their slavery. Excuse me, is I think that's exactly what it is, and it's about facilitating weakness. Like, strong people just shrug off the things that the SJWs care about. They just shrug them off. So I'm just going to get on with my life. It's just the sort of coalition of the weak going around and finding enough numbers, like hyenas, to go bully the lions. And it's like, this has got to stop. Is there any hope for liberty? Not in a social justice society. You'd be totally enslaved by your own weakness and your own emotions. Personal strength is overcoming your emotions, and controlling them, and saying, no, I'm the one who makes the decision here. I don't rely on my reaction to the outside world to dominate me, and so therefore I don't have to control other people. I'll just control it myself, and that makes my life so much easier, so much better. I'm so much happier, you know, and I'm not just deeply offended by everything everyone says all the time. Oh God, just shoot me. But yeah, Douglas Murray's great as well. Really appreciating his work. Gus says, YouTube let you out of your cage. Yeah, they did lift the strike shortly after, a couple of days after. Because I did appeal and said, there's no subject of this video. There's no
oh my gosh.
In this video. I'm talking about a series of articles that
I don't know who's
whoever else would put up. And so I don't really see how you can say that.
Oh, nice. Someone's playing support. Finally.
Saying it was lifted. destroyed. It was just gone one day. But at least, you know, not Jesus, you could YouTube it, not complaining, you know. But yeah, so kind of. AAAA says, did you hear that Jim Metka has cancer? Some kind of lymphoma he's getting radiation therapy for. He's also been losing 3 pounds a week. Might be, have to be something up with his thyroid and pituitary gland as well. You can read up on Twitter at Quarantine Coop. Well, I'm genuinely sad to hear that. I don't want anyone to die. And I don't want anyone to be platformed. You know, I like...
Is that the first time he hears about this? I don't believe this.
Even if it's full of people who hate me and I don't have any particular love for in time, you know, in turn, I don't mind. You know, I don't want to see people suffer. I can see people dying. You know, I like the variety and diversity of the internet. Even if it's full of people who hate me and I don't have any particular... Only sad to hear that. I'm complaining, you know. But yeah, so kind of. AAAA says, did you hear that Jim Metka has cancer? Some kind of lymphoma he's getting radiation therapy for. He's also been losing 3 pounds a week. Might be have to be something up with his thyroid and pituitary gland as well. You can read up on Twitter at Quarantine Coop. Well, I'm genuinely sad to hear that. I don't want anyone to die. And I don't want anyone to fall. You know, I like the variety and diversity of the internet. Even if it's full of people who hate me and I don't have any particular love for in time. You know, in turn, I don't mind. You know, I don't want to see people suffer. I can see people dying just because they disagree with me. This again speaks to the sort of like
dying just because they disagree with me.
the cheering, the cheering, and then you get
Jim is not dying because he disagreed with Sargon.
Don't be like that. That's. I know that they've set the standard, but this is actually genuinely one of those standards that I think you uphold for your own sake, not for their sake. You do it for yourself. You know, not being joyous that your opponents are just your political opponents are just dying is. I think part of being a good person. I really do. Oils Goon says, about to red pill your ass, check the National Popular Vote in-state compact. Trump wins Minnesota and won over half of the total popular votes. He will join Washington as one of the 2 presidents to win a unanimous electoral vote. Well, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? B for Bandetta says, based Guy Fawkes is right about government. Well, no. Guy Fawkes was a Catholic revolutionary who's trying to overthrow Protestantism in Britain, in England. And no, we're not papists here, thank you very much. But the sentiment, I guess, if you can abstract it, being anti-government, well, maybe. I'm certainly getting that way about taxation. Eric says, what's the best way to contact you privately? I have information that will lead to the rest of Hunter Biden. Well, don't send that to me, Jesus Christ. Send that to the New York Post. There you can get censored. Not me, thank you. YouTube did nothing wrong says, are they saying that Epstein was acting alone? That he was the only person who did this or served this role? He had an entire island and a private jet devoted to this. Maxwell is also getting a massive list of politicians out. I'm just hopeful for some justice. Yeah, why he, man? I mean, the fact that Epstein and Maxwell both did it and have been credibly accused by the victims, it's that definition makes it a conspiracy. But who were the clients? Who were they trafficking the girls to? He obviously wasn't operating alone, was he? He obviously had customers, and the question of where he gets all his money is a really good one. You know, how did he get all of the $600 million worth of assets and wealth? Like, it's all never very well explained. Brazier says, it started with the left-wing media cutting off their noses to spot the face, but now they're on full face removal, destroying their businesses to own the rightoids. Nothing of value will be lost. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. The left-wing media is just unsustainable as well. You hear about them downsizing constantly. And I'm sure that since Corona, it's done them no favours anyway. But yeah, it was clearly an unsustainable business model. So, Pirate Skeleton says, here's a thought I had. To the classically liberal, racism is a methodology. To the left, racism is the result. What do you think? They don't seem to realise that if they do what the racists do, they are the racists. Yeah, that's exactly right. And I'm pretty sure it's right. But I'm glad you had that thought too, because it reinforces mine. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's procedure. To the sort of classically liberal, action-oriented sort of Aristotelian, yeah, racism is a procedure. It's an opinion that you put into action, and the action itself is discriminatory and therefore illegal, forbidden by law, and immoral. And therefore, what we say is that the ends are justified by the means, not the means justify the ends, and they believe that the ends are justified by the ends justify the means. And so they don't mind doing these same things as long as they end up with the exact 50-50 split. It doesn't even matter what they do, and that's in fact what this video is about here. This video is about exactly that. So I definitely recommend you go check that out on BitChute. But yeah, you are completely correct. Samuel Peter says, okay, I may not have been able to make you admit the true champions of the 100 Years' War are, so I'll back off. So I'll offer you the compromise. You get back Calais, but you have to take all the refugees and up their deal. I don't know, man. I mean, I'll forward it up to Boris and see how he feels about it. 23 Jim says, I'm a composer working my way into the film industry and always wonder how limited I am in my career for not being sympathetic to all this market's nonsense. Any advice for surviving in such an industry? Best of luck with the new company. Happy to help if I can. Thank you very much. There is, if I assume you're in LA, right? If you're doing that. And there is in LA an underground network of conservatives who are involved in genuinely, I wouldn't want to name because I wouldn't want to get any trouble. But they do genuinely exist, and they kind of have these kind of underground speakeasies where they can literally speak easy. And it might be worth trying to get yourself in contact with
What is
some of
this?
Paradox Engine says, ambush Caleb Kane on Sitch and Friended tonight. Update the Trump-Biden-Ukraine timeline pastebin with New York Post and Tucker Revelations as Sitch claims. Thank you very much. Still a work in progress. What I'll do is I'll send that to my chums. I don't think I will tonight. I've not like it was my wife's birthday today. We went away yesterday for her birthday because she deserves it. So I haven't been able to do anything really of any particular productive nature apart from read books, which wasn't permitted. And now I'd like to unwind and play some video games. So after this, I'm gonna.
Well, shit, he's gonna join. He's gonna join.
Right,
Such a friend. It's
just
fucking.
worked hard. Stuff's gone on. I've done my bit. But thanks for the paste bit. I'll put it on Parler.
There we go. Put us in parlor.
God Emperor of Man says, so do you need me yet? Not yet. Not yet. I think Trump's going to win. I think he's going to win in a landslide. I think the leftists are going to be totally blown out, and they're not going to be able to know what to do with themselves. So no, I'm.
That's a launcher.
Sparky says, for most QAnon followers, it's just a distraction, using tongue-in-cheek distraction, like reading a horoscope. It's hardly a cult as the establishment has us believe. Fair enough. I don't really follow it, to be honest. So I don't really. I can, you see like the WWG 1A something. I can't remember what it is. But you see people posting it, or it's in bios.
Oh.
They like. There's probably something. Abtheman 100 says, my friend told me that you can tell how much a person likes freedom based on how much they like to be alone, because a person who is the most free when they are most alone. What are your thoughts? Well, I think that people who like being alone are probably people
I don't usually
who
play
highly value their freedom. Because I mean, when you're alone, the only person to tell you what you can and can't
attack
do is
ships.
you.
I usually play.
So,
Well,
I
I
can
play
imagine
bomber
that
and
does
support,
signify,
but there's too
at
many
least
of them
some kind of approval.
in this game anyway.
It could be the case. It could be.
And I have somewhat equipped.
I mean, the left winger will make an argument saying, well, but can you ever really be free unless you're a man of the city, you're part,
Alright, I forget
part
I'm
of the community?
talking to this team.
You have a place in it and things like this, and then you get into more abstract positions on it that I'm not even sure I agree with. To be honest.
Wow, okay, so the bot
it's at least
is
a fair
trying to
judgment of that.
translate my speech into text.
I'm not saying it necessarily means that others
Barth.
don't, just because you're social. JJ the
What
Hunter
the
says, I'm from
fuck?
Manchester, but in Greece on holiday, running away from
It's not going to
Turkey,
translate
tier
that, right?
3. Potential? Man, I think the mayor of Manchester's been fighting it like tooth and nail.
I wonder.
I mean, it's
what
not just potential.
Do I have to say?
The barbarians are at the gates. And it might be that by now, I haven't checked the news in like this evening really, so it might be by now they're already in one. But yeah, so basically in Britain, we've got tier 1, 2, 3 lockdowns. Tier 3 being the most stringent, I believe, and tier 1 being the least stringent. And it's just this ongoing tyranny that the public apparently are generally in agreement with. All the YouGov polling is like,
Okay,
yeah,
that was a
60%
frag.
of the public
Frag
think
it.
another lockdown's a good idea. Why? Why, man? I just walk out and no one's sick, no one's coughing, everyone's getting about their day. And then you got some Nazi mask fucking commissar, like, not commissar, Gestapo officer coming up and berating you for not having your mask above your nose or something. So, oh God, leave me alone. I do like freedom. I do want to be left alone. You're right. But yeah, it's mad.
3 interceptors and
But,
support.
what do you think of Andy Burnham?
Then I
He's one
guess
of
my
the few
job
local
is
politicians
to
I can
shoot
stand.
down
Doesn't seem like a
the
commie, wish he would take over the
Corvette.
party. Is that the guy I was thinking of? Actually, I'd have to look him up. I mean, it would be nice if just any of the parties at this point had some sensible people. Like you can see in the thumbnail here, Rishi Sunak's, Diversity Built Britain coin. It's a coin that literally says Diversity Built Britain from the Conservative Party. It's like, really, you're about racial divisions now, are you? That's weird. That's just weird that the Conservatives would be like that. Like, vote Conservative.
This
Get
A-Wing shut
Labour
down
just
two
at a
of our
slightly
guys.
slower pace. What an awful set of choices we have in this country. I really hope Lawrence
This is
Fox,
the sailing ship.
Farage should join Lawrence Fox, and the Heritage Party. They should all get together and just form a super party to actually challenge the
Stupid
Conservatives and Labour and start actually taking.
I mean, it's trying.
For the sort of sensible sort of boomer patriotism, like Team Britain, Team America. As cheesy as that might sound, but like it's the team of it's the team.
Whoa!
And Biden's surrounded by people who are anti.
Hide behind the behind the small ship.
Like that's division.
Yeah, there we go.
It's the worst. Anyway, Luke says, I'm enjoying your backlog of history podcasts with History Bro. Any possibility
Okay,
of an
let's
episode of the
try and
Crusades,
take
second
down
half
their
of Christians?
fighters.
Yeah, definitely will. We will do the good Christians as well. Well, again, once this is all up and running and the podcast's up and running, and I can find time to work on projects long term, then I can do things like good Christians. Just right this second, like everything's up in the air, and I feel like I've got a bunch of plates spinning. And every day I'll go and do whatever work is required to keep that plate spinning, And I've got a bunch of them that are up in the air, and I'm like, no, and I've been diligently keeping all of this going for a year or so now, if not more. And I've been working my ass off, and I'm like, yeah, no, and some of them are starting to bear fruit. Like the Greenwood project is one of the plates that I've been kept spinning with Scott. It's really good. When the third episode of the podcast goes up, I'll post it. And I of all the work that I've done, this is the stuff that I'm most proud of, because this is the nutritional stuff. This is the stuff that, because all the way through the lockdown, every day we would do some work. And before the lockdown, when we could actually meet up, we would meet up and study this old shit. Study these old ballads, study these old ideas and texts, and historical writings from people like Alfred the Great. See what they thought. See, what was their worldview? What did they think was right and wrong? And extract the patterns of the moral lessons of the tradition of England to see what we find. And we find some really great stuff and really interesting
There
stuff.
we go.
And stuff that's really moralizing. It makes you realise, no,
Was that my first kill?
Reasons for doing what they did. And we had good reasons for getting to where we are from that. And this gives us a kind of moral teleology. We can say, look, and it would be better if we went in this direction, because we can maintain all of the stuff that we've learned and created, and this, without turning into bad people, without becoming raging Nazis or communist lunatics. No, there is a middle path between these that we can navigate through these issues to the other side, where both parties are satisfied to a certain degree. That means that they don't have to go full revolutionary. Because both sides are quite revolutionary. I'm an anti-revolutionary. I'm an evolutionary. That's what I am. I'm pro-evolution of our democracies. But yeah, so that's what I recommend. Because I know that a lot of people getting black-pilled now, and they're feeling demoralised and stuff, and I'm feeling the same way. So, but the Greenwood stuff that we've been doing has been the healthy stuff. It's been the wholesome stuff, as well as all the philosophy reading I've been doing recently as well. Some really good stuff, and I think I'll be able to write some, for the new site. One of the things I'm looking forward to most is being able to actually write articles, because I think I might actually be quite a good writer, and I think I'll be able to put across a very persuasive argument for an X, position, and I think it would be very useful, and that's all I want.
Arguments in writing are so much better than arguments
I'm getting ahead of myself as always.
online.
But yes, I would love to carry on.
Value
when we've got the new podcasting space, I've spoken to History Bro, and we'll do them in the office, obviously. So A, we don't have to record it by Skype, so the quality's shit, and B, it'll look good. We'll be able to have pictures and stuff like that up, so we can reference stuff, and it'll be great. And these things are always better when they're live, in person. America
Oh
is
my
stupid and
God.
polarized at the moment, says Richard Freeman. My mother has come calling me a horrible person for voting against her again, and my gritter of a father.
I have
openly
no
advocated
idea how
me,
to play.
to me,
TIE
Mass Play is
fighters.
full of traitors because the plot. To use a plot is too respectful. Exciting times. Mad, isn't it? How the left have managed to polarize every family.
I mean,
Every single family.
that's close enough, but
But this is exactly what identity politics does.
I
This is
feel a little
exactly
better
what
on
the
the fence,
mentality
though.
of the personal is political
There we
does.
go.
It means that there are no private spaces. There are no spaces away from politics. And that's what they want. That's how they want it. No spaces away from politics. Because they have politics for every space. Whereas most of us don't. Most of us have got the understanding that you have a private life. You get on with it. You enjoy it. And I don't, my opinion on it doesn't matter. Riley ML says, do you think gay pride has a place in our society? Keep clothes on and kids aren't sexualized. A lot of gay people struggle to accept their own identity, and being able to be proud of that is difficult. Cheers. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't have a problem innately with like the idea of a gay pride parade. I mean, I suppose there's a part of me that say, well, come on, guys, pride is a sin. But no, okay, fine. You know, I don't mind it. But why does it have to be a bunch of naked guys?
I countered the
Why
missile.
each other
What did I do?
And why does it have to be that? Why
Okay,
can't you wear suits?
I was fighting two
You know,
ships.
why can't you dress like? Well, not even. You know, I mean, it would be nice if you wore suits. I mean, it'd be nice if I wore a suit, I guess. But why not just go in jeans and t-shirts? You know, hold each other's hand,
Yeah, I'm
wave
gonna
your
stick
flag,
with TIE fighter
and
because
not be
I need to
gross.
practice
I
it
mean, I saw
anyway.
a lesbian getting peed on in
Oh
an
no.
inflatable paddling pool in just the middle of the street, and I think it was Boston a few years ago. There was a video going around Twitter, and it was like, it was just the most disgusting thing in the world. She was naked, obviously, and why? Why does it have to be that? Like, this is looking a lot more like fetish pride, and you know, you can keep that in the bedroom, can't you? I don't want to know about your fetishes, but yeah, like, and the thing is, the worst enemy as well, their own worst enemy. Because when normies see that, they're like, okay, I'm kind of against gay pride now. Stug says, if Biden wins, do you think the MSM will start calling out critical race theory? Since they have to, since they will
What?
have
Did they shot
lost
down
their
my...
biggest enemy in Trump. Also, where will I be able to find the link to your website when it's up? I don't want to get a parlor unless you leave you no choice. Well, I leave you no choice to get parlor, but I'll announce it. I'll let you all know, because it'll just be a website. So you can just, you know, favorite it, bookmark it, sign up to our newsletter if you want to get regular emails about things that
Yeah.
we're talking about on the website, you know.
Where's the combat?
I don't know how regularly I'd send emails. Is once a week enough or too much or what? You know, I mean, once a week might not be enough. I don't know. But I figure that what we do is like we'd do sort of like a mini newsletter thing. So you didn't even need to like necessarily go to the site every day. You could just
Wow,
get,
I got the kill.
a rundown of a bunch of
Ooh.
things and then links to the stories that we're talking about, just so you know the important things that we've covered that day. You know, that's what I was thinking with the newsletter. But I don't want to spam people. You know, I don't want to be too much in your inboxes. Let me know, guys. Leave a comment.
It's very sensitive, the steering on this one.
Dr. Diddler says, Sargon, I can't help but notice that when I give you my hard-earned money, you snigger at each super chat. Honestly, what? I can't help but notice you
Snigger.
When I give you my
That's-
hard-earned money, you
that's-
snigger at each super chat. This is very disrespectful.
That's
Disrespecting.
That- That's all he wanted him to say.
Yes, because your name is Dr. Diddler. Sorry, I apologise, Doctor. I thought that was a serious comment. I was thinking, do I? I didn't even know I did it. Yeah, obviously. Jarl N says, read the book This is a Swedish Tiger and learn
Okay,
learn Swedish from
I
socialism's dark last century. No, I haven't read that one. I don't think I'll be able to
After
just
this one, I'm gonna switch Sargon off
not that I don't
because
approve of reading an interesting book
I
about
have
Sweden.
other stuff to
Showing
do.
that the Swedes did something, but I just can't just find the time out.
Oh my
I
god,
bet Callum-
3?
Callum's
tried
really
to-
big on reading about history books about other cultures, like very in-depth and specific ones about other cultures.
Did I shoot it?
He's been really binging on North Korea recently, and it's really fascinating because they'll come out and say, well, the North Koreans are really racist. They're really concerned about the purity of the North Korean race. Like the South Koreans were like, oh, it's just, you know, they were having a dispute over a particular port, and the South Koreans wanted it because a lot of their people came back with foreign wives through that port, and so it was convenient. And the North Koreans were like, well, that's disgusting. Why are you polluting the Han River that North Koreans are? And they said, well, it's just a few drops in the river, and they were like, oh no, that's one too many in the north. And that there's a general view in the south that the northern Koreans are the virtuous ones, that they live in a virtuous manner, and it's like really interesting. Really interesting the way they're looking at it. So yeah, Callum will be making like, not necessarily long, like scripted videos talking about all of these things. He's got a real passion for it, and he does a really good job. So they're going to be
Oh, come on, give me a shot.
Genuinely,
Oh my.
I'm really looking forward to watching these myself because I haven't read all of the books that he's read on these subjects.
Ah, their support flew in front of my
have you heard the question
rocket
about,
and
SSCI?
tanked it. What
Trump
a
report apparently confirms
goddamn
the
locker.
Russiagate theory is not a hoax. No, I haven't seen that.
And
But I've
there's a
seen no
cover
evidence that
cover.
the Russiagate theory is anything else but a hoax. Mr. Twisted Frenzy says, when your company's up and running, will you guys investigate further into the Great Reset? Investigate into anything, really. We'll just go where the evidence is. Wanton says, new strategy. If someone calls you a Nazi, Islamophobe, etc., ask them if they're 100% convinced of that, and if they say yes, endorse their candidate or political stance so they aren't too tainted. Well, that is something that would work if it was against them. But, I mean, Richard Spencer endorsed Joe Biden, and literally none of them care. None of them are bothered. CNN contributor Richard Spencer has endorsed Biden. Classical Positioning says, Alex Jones had an ominous 30-minute rebroadcast about human trafficking, Hunter Biden and child torture on banned.video. I wish Jones would go full Doom guy all of these days and send these goddamn demons back to hell. Disavow. I haven't seen it. I did see a headline that sounds like something you were saying, and it sounds like it's big if true, but I'm going to wait for more information to come out before I start going on about things like that. Boop says, the big lie. The use of a lie so colossal that no one would believe that someone could have the impudence to distort the truth so infamously, says Hitler.
Oh,
I think
come
global
on.
warming, end of democracy, anti-fascism, and fashion fast world left wing. And I agree. I mean, this is genuinely how they saw the world working. Like, and I think the people at the top do know that what they're saying is fucking bullshit. A massive grift. JS Bach says, Carl, I have another picture on my parlor to try and entice you to come out to Utah for a hike. Last post I made, JS Bach 1801.
Oh my god.
Keep up the good fight. Also submitted my election ballot yesterday. Rep all the way. Shouldn't have to be this way. Well, yeah, but there we are. You know, this is where we're at. Like, man, go back 10 years, and I would be like, oh, the Republican Party's terrible. Why can't they find one? But that was before the Democrat Party was just, you know, shotgun in mouth, pulling trigger. Like you can't endorse this. I can't find it. Sorry. You can't endorse the kind of nonsense that they do. You just can't do it. So, Philosophy Ferret says, hi Sargon, what do you make of these pamphlets being read out in Wales? Reading,
Lord.
are you 14 to 16 years old or a foreign citizen leaving Wales? The law in Wales has changed so you can now register to vote. I wasn't aware of such changes in the law. Yeah, I believe these were local government. So the Welsh Assembly has passed these. And I assume
Why can't I
they think
keep the
this will be
fucking
a
thing
voting
straight? What the
constituency
fuck?
that will vote for them reliably. Because I guess they feel that they're about to lose because being a radical left-wing liar is not a tenable position with the electorate. And so you must expand the electorate, you must change the rules, because otherwise the rules might be not in your favour, which is, again, what the left is constantly doing.
I wonder what the bot is going to do if I reroute someone else
The
talking
Supreme Court.
into the
Why? Because we
microphone.
fucked up.
Let's
It's the only
see.
way we can ever be relevant again, because the mask fell. Yeah, we hate America. Yeah, we hate white people. Yeah, we hate capitalism. Yeah, we hate everything. Fuck all this. And I was like, right, that's all we needed to hear. Other guy 2020. Doesn't matter who the other guy is. Just, oh, it's a giant fat orange American dick who's waving the flag going, America's the best. It's like, okay, good enough. That's all. At least it's crystal clear. Crystal clear. Death to America or I love America. Well, if I had to choose, fine, I'll go with the I love America. You fucking cheesy boomers. Okay, fine. God damn it.
Have some
Like,
Sargon.
what a world within nothing, man. I love the way that the entire Anglosphere has an opinion on America as well. All eyes are on America. Like, everyone's watching. Sky News Australia are like, yeah, look, we've got an exclusive here on your political thing. You know, British English guy talking about America. Like, there's a lot of importance going on here.
Okay, so
This will echo.
my accent is not good enough for the
What
bots.
happens in America echoes across the other English-speaking countries, and so we want you to win. We want the "We Don't Hate America" faction. We want them to win. That's good for everyone.
Let's try.
Thug Life Bear says 4chan just discovered systemic Democrat voter fraud for mail-in balloting. All you need is someone's name and date of birth to change.
Basically, he's trying to make it
Oh,
like I'm joking that we pwned him. I'm joking, but he's not. He's trying to be serious, but
They're
say it
actually
in a
doing
way that,
Chomsky.
like, gives him cover when people come out like, oh, why are you talking about like destroying fucking Noam Chomsky, piece of shit. And also, as you'll listen to when we listen to this, you keep it in mind that this guy thinks he made Noam Chomsky look stupid, and that he and Brianna Joy Gray didn't come off as like completely fucking insane and out of touch with reality. And this is from I don't even like Noam Chomsky. I'm not even a Noam Chomsky fan whatsoever.
Yeah,
So just keep that in mind.
yeah. I don't really agree with anything Noam Chomsky said. Noam Chomsky is basically, trying to fearmonger you into voting Donald Trump out of office using climate change, which I'm not in favor of. I debate climate change all the time because climate change is obviously real.
Oh,
it's
no.
happening. The problem that I have is with these, end of the world predictions, because I don't think they're helpful, and I think technology will actually get us out of this. Your position is probably pretty similar. I'm not.
No, my position, I'm agnostic on about how detrimental and awful it's going to be.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know. I've never looked into it. I understand people wanting to air, obviously,
Ding.
catastrophe.
We
they
lost
wanna
you for
air.
a second. So.
Oh, I'm saying
Back up.
if there's some kind of catastrophe, I understand people wanting to err on the side of caution, obviously. But but no, I'm a little bit more agnostic. I think I'm more cautious about it than you are. I think you're a little too laissez-faire about.
What do you mean? We don't necessarily know. I like the work of Boren Lombard, and I discovered, arguing with people on Twitter, that Boren Lombard actually, the leftists went after him, and some committee called his first work into question. He filed a counterclaim against them and won that counterclaim. But all the left does is say that he's been discredited. Like, they don't actually read that, they went after him, which is obvious. Anybody who's talking smack about climate change, anyone who's challenging the narrative that the world is going to end in 12 years is going to get a bunch of leftists on their tail pretty quickly. So they filed charges against him. Those charges were never finalized, I guess you'd say. And but it's an interesting thing that everyone who's arguing all the end of the world stuff with climate change, anytime you bring up Boren Lombard, they just say he's discredited and won't listen to you at all,
Sure.
even though he has a ton of good research that's never really...
I'm just not convinced that technology is going to save us. I mean, because I'm just looking at what's going on right now with COVID. Like, no one would have expected in 2019 if you were to say, oh, next year the entire world is going to be like ravaged by a disease that has a 0.2% fatality rate. Like, don't, this was just so outside of everyone's expectations, I think. And then if you would have said that this was a potential thing, people would be like, oh, it's fine, we'll come up with medicine, techniques, technology, whatever. And I don't know, this kind of made me lose a lot of faith in institutions' ability to deal with like large-scale crises.
So you're saying, but I mean, climate change is a slow-moving crisis. Like, it's nowhere near the COVID situation.
I mean, yeah, no, that's true.
I'm worried about artificial intelligence far more than I'm worried about climate change.
I think the issue with climate change is it's not like there's not like a red flag that like suddenly you wake up one day and then it goes bling, climate change is activated. Like, it's a slow process that's going to have a lot of wide changes that people aren't going to be able to point to and realize what exactly is happening. And then there's going to be arguments about whether is this climate change, is it not climate change, blah 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 blah. So
yeah, that's happening now. It
That's
is.
happening right now. Exactly.
But the thing that bothers me about it is nobody's really dealing with it scientifically. They're dealing with it politically. It's like, well, there's all these hurricanes now, so that's climate change.
Right, but that's the issue. I think part of why I've lost confidence in a lot of it too is because I don't think anyone really knows.
No, I agree. I'm the same exact position.
I think
nobody
yeah,
knows.
I think people see the threat and they say, hey, if there's a potential of something that's going to have some cataclysmic event on humankind, it's better to err on the side of caution. I think that's where most of the scientists are coming from.
Yes. Well, actually, I think the debate is really over the extent, and this is why I like Lauren Lombard, because he is saying, yes, climate change is real. Yes, climate change is something that we have to deal with, but we have much bigger problems. Why are people fixated on this problem? And it's not a good idea to fixate on problems that the political ability to fix is much less than other problems that are far more fixable.
Yeah, but see, I mean, I think the problem is that even people don't want to hear even Lombard's position. Most people don't agree with it.
Not Lombards, Lombards.
Yeah, so what if we lose like all the coastlines in our country? It's like most people are like, wait a minute, like I don't want to lose. All the coastlines.
What are you talking about?
Oh, he's not.
How do you lose?
That's always the way. That's always the way that Scott Adams sort of interprets his position. He's always like, well, people can just move inward, and I'm just like, okay. I don't know.
Yeah. Obviously, Sitch has beachfront property, so we're having this conversation.
I want to protect my house.
He's like, listen, my property values are on the line here.
Yeah, exactly.
When I bought my home, I did the map of the geological area, and I figured out like the sea level rise, and my property's actually going to be beachfront. So
there you go. See, there's the problem. We have countering incentives.
I'm like, the beach, just come to me. Come to me, guys. Come on up. For global warming, please.
Yes.
Promote it. Nobody needs it. Nobody cares about it. No, we're the ones generating the ideas that society uses, that activists put into practice.
You, me, and Joe Rogan, baby.
Yep.
All right. Well, this is Bad Faith, and this is Noam Chomsky.
Is that a dig at Joe Rogan? I don't even know.
No, I think it wasn't. It was them trying to elevate their status. Joe Rogan's status.
Well, they're a pretty big podcast. They probably call Joe Rogan a Nazi 3 times a week.
They're not anywhere near Joe Rogan's level.
You know they call Joe Rogan a Nazi 3 times a week.
Of course. Or some sort of fascist enabler.
Right. So they're not trying to elevate their status. They're trying to
lower they're trying to elevate. No. You're wrong. They're trying to elevate their status in terms of how influential Joe Rogan is, how big an audience Joe Rogan is.
Right.
You know, because they're saying like, oh, this is why I feel like this Virgil Texas guy. I mean, he's Chapo Trappo, so that makes sense. He acts in this very kind of disgusting, disingenuous way, where he says something that I think he believes, but he says it in sort of a mocking tone, so that if you call him out on it, he'll say, oh, I'm just joking. Because he said, oh, well, you know, we're more influential on the culture than Noam Chomsky is, or the activist, is what he just said. That's fucking, I think that's insane. It's like talk about the ego of these two like individuals to think that they have a bigger impact on the left than Noam Chomsky, who's basically their fucking lord and savior.
No one listens to Noam Chomsky anymore. Come on.
That's not true. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like they were all like, well, what's funny about this. Everyone on the left, or not even like leftists, I'm sorry, far leftists, okay?
Oh, come on.
About Noam Chomsky. He was like their daddy. He's their god. But then, when Bernie dropped out of the election and Noam Chomsky came out in favor of Biden, they all were like, uh-oh, what are we gonna do? We've been preaching that Biden is like the devil for the last, 6 months, but now our God and Savior has come out in favor of him. What are we gonna do?
Yeah, they do this all the time. Mark Lilith came out with a book right after Trump won in 2016 called The Once and Future Liberal.
Yeah, we're basically living in a Chomsky world now. Everything he ever
obviously, the left picked up that book and read it cover to cover.
Thought everyone thinks
they
that.
still don't understand that
what Chomsky
like
thinks.
they don't go through the primary
And
process thinking, okay,
Chomsky thinks what he
I can't
thought
totally hate
10
all
years
of
ago
these
is not
people
enough.
because I'm going to have to eventually vote for one of them. But they
Right.
demonize each other so much through the primary process that
Well, I
it's
mean,
just impossible to
everyone
come
was doing that.
together.
It was the same thing with Trump. Right? That was such a contentious primary season.
Right. I felt like the that was a weird case though because the Republicans had it in their mind that Trump could not win. There was no way he could win.
Yes.
So they
right.
didn't. So he was okay to beat up on because everyone else they were like, well, one of these other people is definitely going to be the candidate. And then all of a sudden, oops.
Yeah.
Oops.
That's true.
Oh my god.
Oh wait, we need to skip the music.
Oh, dude. Yeah, we do.
It's like copyrighted or
Oh
something.
yeah.
Sentiments are
I'm putting some pictures up of these people so you guys can see who we're looking at.
your voice is so incredibly meaningful and persuasive as someone who is deeply respected, obviously, for both your scholarship and kind of your political opinions over the course of time. And so it made big news, understandably, a few months ago when you came out very strong.
That's nice
We're
recording
advocating
job.
for-
That was
Worse
super.
than-
I was so dead.
Oh my god. You know, your opinion's over time. Sitch, I really like your opinion's over time.
Wait, let's go
Time.
back. I missed that. That's really funny.
Be back in a minute.
Kind of your political opinions over the course of time. And so it
Yeah. So basically, that's like, oh, I used to really like you, but then you said something recently. That's
Pretty
that's the
much.
translation.
Yeah.
That's what just happened.
Brianna Joy was what did she do for the Bernie campaign?
She was
some
the national
operative.
press secretary.
The National Press Secretary
Right.
for Bernie Sanders. Do you think she's a Bernie bro, Sitch? I'm curious.
I think she's a Bernie or Buster. Yes, 100%.
Right. Okay. Good. Context matters.
Well, yeah.
big news, understandably, a few months ago when you came out very strongly advocating for leftists who at the time were, many of whom were very frustrated by the way the primary season ended, to pledge their votes to Joe Biden.
No, I didn't say anything.
Okay, can you clarify then? What is your position?
But I said it 1,000 times.
This guy, this ship is so good at destroying other ships, other fighters.
Now it happens that there's a technical fact which says when you want to vote against Trump, you have to push a lever for Biden. But the left doesn't get involved in these games. The idea of making elections
Nice.
be all and end all of politics is
Nice.
the mainstream conservative idea. The idea is politics is supposed to be restricted to electoral extravaganzas. You show up every couple of years and push a lever, and then you go home. The official doctrine, and I've repeated, quoted it from the main sources, is you're supposed to be voters, not participants. So your job as a citizen is to show up every once in a while,
Woo!
or another of
Boom.
the so-called responsible men, and then go home. Use the phrase of the main writers on the topic. Whitman, in this case, the ignorant and meddlesome outsiders, the public, have to be put in their place. They have a role to show up
Okay.
and vote now and then, period. Now the left has always taken a very different view. The real politics consists of
Oh my God.
activism. Every once in a while, an event comes up in which you have to take a couple of minutes to decide.
So, oh my God, is
whether
translated to
it's
only
worth
God? Only
pushing
God?
the lever to keep out
What the hell?
someone who's truly dangerous. So
Oh
if,
my
in
God,
this
oh
case,
my God.
The argument for that is simply overwhelming.
Let's see.
It's the most dangerous
Oh my God.
figure ever appeared in political history.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh,
You believe that? Is Donald Trump the most dangerous political figure to ever exist United States history.
I had no idea Chomsky had TDS like a motherfucker. Like,
What do you mean?
Of course he does.
What do you mean?
it's fucking off the charts. Are you kidding me? I honestly don't think Trump is that bad. I mean, I don't
I
understand.
think he's bad, but I don't know how you say he's the worst.
He's not an
United States
existential.
history.
Who? Donald Trump is literally the anti-war candidate now.
Well, it depends. If Chomsky believes, if you believe that climate change is real and it's like we're on the precipice, then you would say anyone who doesn't believe that would be the existential crisis, right?
Yes. Yeah. Totally.
Right. So I understand if that's his argument, even if you don't agree with it, I understand the logic behind it.
Do you know that book that they wrote a long time ago? Some guy wrote about how our population was gonna expand to the point that food was gonna be the real problem.
Yes, of
And
course.
we couldn't grow enough food to
Right.
actually
The opposite.
satiate the population. Right. Exactly. And then the new technology of fertilizer came out, and then all of a sudden food wasn't a problem anymore.
Well, and also birth rates declined significantly.
What do you
in a lot
mean?
of
Our
countries.
population continued to go up. We're
No, but I don't think
approaching
people
billions
didn't.
now.
People didn't expect a lot of first world Western countries' birth rates to suddenly drop. They didn't expect to see. I don't think people expect to see this trend where once people reach a certain level of economic, the birth
Oh,
rate
yeah,
will
yeah,
stabilize.
The point is, we figured it out. A technology came along that we figured
Come
out.
on.
Like if we had a better policy towards nuclear, I think we could get past the climate change stuff. But it's funny that nuclear is completely off the table, for all the climate alarms. So, how do you even really begin that negotiation?
Well, I think that wasn't Joe Biden in favor of nuclear, but Bernie Sanders wasn't?
That would make that seems plausible. Yes, definitely.
Because that would be kind of ironic.
Like Biden actually has the solution to climate change, and no,
Well,
Chomsky is like, we have.
that, because they're all like, oh my god, Joe Biden and the Democrats, they're not gonna follow the Green New Deal to like the strictest letter. And it's like, well, actually, it turns out Joe Biden's the one that's in favor of nuclear. I don't know if the Green New Deal had anything to do with nuclear energy. I'm curious now.
Well, anyway, I'm optimistic about getting past climate change. Climate change is not the real thing that I'm worried about. Societal collapse from critical race theory is higher on my list than climate change.
Okay, so this is how you know that AOC is a fucking moron, if you didn't know that already. And that the Green New Deal has really stupid shit in
Oh,
it.
come on.
Because it calls for the entire country to be powered by renewable energy, but says it wants to get rid of nuclear power.
Yeah, nuclear is renewable.
Like, how fucking stupid is that?
And not only that, the fourth generation nuclear reactors are supposed to also deal with the problem of nuclear waste, like that they haven't been able to get rid of for 20 years. Evidently,
But even
it's fuel for the
I
new
think
reactors.
even I'd have to someone can fact check this. I saw an article that was claiming that all of the waste that nuclear reactors have produced so far in human history is like a tiny fraction of the percent of all the waste created by solar energy already.
What?
Because the problem that no one talks about, everyone thinks solar energy is like the super clean energy, which is true. It doesn't create emissions, obviously. The problem is that you have to replace the batteries. They don't last forever. And so and those batteries are filled with toxic metals, all these toxic chemicals and toxic metals that if they leach into your water is really bad. So there's just heaps and heaps and heaps and heaps and heaps of these spent batteries that just take up space. And I believe they already take up more space than all the nuclear waste does in the entire planet. So
That's crazy.
it's a little silly. It's a little silly.
So take a couple of minutes, vote against him, then proceed back to real politics, which is the constant activism, which in fact has pushed Biden's program to the left of any of his predecessors, and if it continues, can do more.
Oh, come on.
But the principle is vote against Trump, then challenge Biden.
Well, I think the argument that's being
The truth is, I think with a lot of this stuff, especially with
Let's go
right
for
here,
another run.
because she was personally involved in the Bernie campaign.
Thanks.
Is that if you remember when Bernie was running, they were focused so much on like mainstream media. The DNC is out to get Bernie. They're the establishment. They're evil. And now they're like, they can't. You can't have people say that for like 6 months and then turn around and support them.
Yeah, that's
Come-
what I
It makes
was.
What?
them look.
Oh,
Yeah, it makes
I
them look
didn't
fucking.
actually change my
They came out
engine.
so hard against the establishment.
I didn't actually
that
switch
now
power
they
to
hide
engines.
themselves in all sorts of knots. And to me, this really just shows how, like, people always say, "Oh, I vote for the policy," but a lot of them, it's bullshit. It's all emotional. It's all irrational. It's all people feel like they were betrayed. You're betrayed by the DNC. It's so funny too because they always blame the
Oh,
DNC or
no.
whatever. It's like fucking people voted, okay?
Yeah.
People chose Joe Biden. Look, I didn't think Joe Biden was the best nominee either, just based on his age. But that's what people chose. It was a free and fair election. People fucking
Ah,
voted.
so
Thank
it
you.
doesn't really
People voted for Donald Trump. Like, you know,
like
the way it
voting for
is.
Biden now.
You can't complain about
Good.
Social media
Okay.
makes this even worse too because they're on social media making these declarations in writing on social networks in front of a bunch of other people. You can't go back from that. You can't
Right,
all of a
exactly.
sudden say, "Oh, okay, well, you know, I was tweeting like mad about how I'll never vote for Joe Biden, and now after 35 fucking tweets in 15 minutes, here I am voting for Joe Biden. Everyone will think I'm a dick. Everyone will think I'm a moron. I'm not going to do that."
As hard as it is to change your mind normally, it's even like it's like
Oh,
a
yes.
1,000 times harder once you've
Yeah,
made
this
that your
game is
opinion a
much
public
better.
declaration.
In writing. There's this,
In writing.
even they've done psychological studies on how
Yes.
just writing it out by yourself, not
Right.
even showing it to anyone, completely influences you.
Right.
So you could have like gone to write out a tweet and not even sent the tweet, and it's still
Right. Well, I think what happened was, and you know,
Did
we
I
said
sh-
many times, Twitter is not reflective of
Jesus,
the
these
mainstream
rockets are
opinion
fucking
of government.
incredibly
Twitter is
amazing.
dominated by extreme ideology on both sides. And so you had all these journalists and all these political pundits like Gray in Texas who
This guy is still alive?
they're like they live their lives on Twitter and on social media, and they see everyone on Twitter and social media hates Biden. They're all fucking commies, you know, super far leftists dominate these platforms. There's so much Bernie support, very little Biden support on Twitter and social media. So they're operating like this is the way the world works. Okay, this is America now. This is representative of the population. And then they got further tricked because they saw the first two primaries
Yeah.
went towards Bernie and Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah.
And then it was like, whoops, it turns out that your entire like worldview was a fucking lie.
Totally.
And you were stupid and you thought Twitter was reflective of reality when it's actually not. And maybe that's also what's going on, is that this is kind of like when Donald Trump won. It kind of shattered so many people's view of reality. Everyone was saying, you can't win, you can't win, you can't win.
Yep.
And this maybe for a lot of the far leftists that were the Bernie busters, it was the same thing. The worldview was
Oh,
so
come on.
fixated, so focused on social media. Then they find out social media is like tiny percentage of reality, a tiny percentage of people. Suddenly their worldview shattered.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Grandma's not on Twitter all day, but she's gonna show up and vote.
Right.
She voted in every election for the last 40 years. Okay. She's not on your Twitter.
Right.
Made by some on the left, including myself earlier in this election cycle, was that by withholding one's vote, by saying I'm not going to vote for Biden, or as you say, against Trump unconditionally, you could continue to push Biden
Unconditionally.
to the left at a time when he is most vulnerable because of his electoral position. So that endorsing him early on in the process, or endorsing him
She's
by
actually
virtue of
she's
saying
actually
you're going
right.
to
Technically, she's
vote
right.
against Trump. You know, no one's talking about third-party votes as counting as against Trump, right? We're talking exclusively about votes for Biden. So I guess the
That's
question
the scary
is,
thing. She
why-
is
It's so weird that
correct.
she says that.
It's not weird.
How would a vote for a third party candidate equal a vote against Trump? Obviously, it's a vote for Trump because you're voting for a spoiler candidate. She's a press secretary for Bernie Sanders and she doesn't know this. What's going on here? Like,
Well, they do these like bullshit mind games, or like not even, I don't know. Mind
No,
word
that's not
games to
actually
try
a
to trick
mind game.
themselves,
You
where they're
vote
like,
for
"Oh,
someone who
the two-party
represents
system,
you
if I don't vote
the
for, if I
best.
vote for a third-party candidate, it's technically, you know, I'm not voting for the other guy, even though practically that's literally exactly what you're doing, and you just have to accept it. That's just the reality of the world. Okay. Yes, we all bitch and complain about the two-party systems. I agree. Stupid. I don't think that there's ever going to be a fix to it because I think it's too sunk into our system currently. But that's the way it is, and you have to deal with it. You
The
can't.
two-party system
Too many-
actually
I mean, this is
exists
very
in your
indicative
brain.
of, unfortunately,
It's not
of
sunk into
left-wing thought,
anything.
Too, is to just bitch about the rules and decide that because there's some aspect of the rules that I don't like or I feel unfair, I'm just not
It's,
going to participate in the system.
If you're not gonna vote for what you
Yes. And
believe
that-
in,
yeah, and that just
because
fucks-
you're hedging
fucks
bets
you over.
against what you don't want,
'Cause-
Yeah, it does.
I
then
mean,
you're never
if-
gonna
if-
get
if people like Gray and
more
all
than
these
two
fucking
parties.
stupid kids on Twitter, like the reason that Twitter isn't reflective of mainstream politics and whatever is because so many of the kids don't vote.
They
Some
don't.
tiny
It's
percentage of
hilarious.
yeah, it's like 20% of like people like 18 to 25 or something vote. Some tiny percentage of fucking these people vote.
If you go to a protest, you might get, leave with a number. You might get a date out of the deal. You ain't getting no date out of voting. Fuck. Why would
I would. That would be
Why
a
would I vote?
fantastic. Wouldn't that be such an interesting study? Would be to go to every Antifa protest and get like a poll of how many of them have ever voted in an election.
It's gotta be in the teens. It's gotta be in the teens. I'm
How
telling you.
hilarious would that be? All those people out there like busting up windows and cars. They're like, "We're protecting America from fascism." Have you ever voted? Voting
We're
is part of the
protecting
fascist
America
system.
from fascism. Shut the fuck up.
That's just too, because all these it's so funny because they literally preach an ideology that like the system is inherently broken and the system is inherently fascistic, and it's like, well, obviously these people aren't going to go out and vote. You're telling them that their vote is. And
Yeah.
this is kind of like a delicious irony here
It is.
because Noam Chomsky is so responsible for so much of this nonsense. Like he was the big thought leader for leftists, especially on the internet. So it's kind of like he's created this leftist Frankenstein monster, and now it's like grown beyond his control, and it's turned against him.
Yeah, he really doesn't like. It seems like he feels disrespected in here, and he really is being disrespected.
Yeah, but he deserves it. He
Yeah.
made this monster, and now he has to deal with the monster he's created.
Yeah. No, it's
I
great.
mean, he didn't.
It's
Obviously, he
delicious.
didn't. Yeah, he didn't create. He was influential in creating it. Obviously, there's lots of factors.
Many levels of irony here.
Yes, many. Not to mention the fact that it just says "bad faith" in giant fucking letters.
Oh, I know.
Why would you name your podcast something so terrible?
It's edgy, man. Come on, it's cool. It's
You know what, I think-
countercultural.
I was thinking that we should change the channel name to like Sitch and Adams Stream Sunday or Shazam Streams or something. But I was like, you know what we should actually do? We should change the channel name to Two Pieces of Shit Be Assholes for 8 hours. I think that would be like a great name.
Two losers talk on YouTube. Two losers make fun of SJWs.
Try to be serious about it. To say there's an argument that says by joining the 50% of the population, that
Opinionated One for $2 says approximately 36% of the entire population votes in the U.S.
I know. I did a video on it. Yeah.
Isn't that insane? Only 36%.
I did a video on it. It's on my Think Club channel. It's about the Dictator's Handbook if you want to look it up. But I used a chart because I wanted like a visual representation of how few people vote. And it totally hammers it home. Yeah.
vote will somehow influence the Democratic Party. I think that's a pretty long shot.
Yeah.
There's another, yes, a very long shot. They don't pay attention to the 50% who don't vote. There's another proposal, which is
Do you think those people are voting not voting because things are okay? It's like my argument has always been, if things got super bad, those voting numbers would obviously climb rapidly.
Yeah, I would be inclined to agree. Yes, I would think so. Yeah.
I mean, voting would be the least effort to try to change things.
Right.
I mean, these people are protesting for fun. Like I said, they're going out protesting because they might meet somebody new.
Mm-hmm.
Say, if the activism going, compel the program to move to the left, as was done, and then vote against Trump and vote and challenge Biden. Keep pushing it to the left. These are two strategies, okay? But in neither case is it a matter of voting for Biden. It's a question of which strategy you use to push the party to the left. One is, I'll keep quiet. The other is, I'll get engaged, the way the Sunrise Movement was, the way the Sanders campaign was, and succeed in pushing the program considerably to the left. In fact, the actual program on crucial issues, like, say, climate change, despite the resistance from the DNC, turns out to certainly be better than any predecessor and not too bad and can be pushed farther. So those are two tactical choices about how to move the program to the left. In my view, at least.
Oh my god. Oh, the Ralph Retort article. Stephen is just hilarious. What the fuck?
Quiet has no effect.
Do you think Chomsky knows that virtually nobody's voting on climate change? I think the numbers on this issue being important to people are super low.
It's like 7th or 8th bottom, I think.
Yeah, exactly. It's really not going to motivate people. I mean, he's talking like such a pragmatist about, he keeps selling it. Voting only takes a minute. It's like 1 minute, just 1 minute of your time. He's obviously not adding up all the other stuff that you have to do, but.
Is it interesting that someone who's a communist, or I think people in chat were saying he's a syndical anarchist, or whatever the fuck that shit means, that someone who's in that realm is trying to take a pragmatic approach to voting and politics?
He's 130 years old, so I mean, he's had a lifetime of realizing that none of this radical shit has worked out for him. So in his last dying breath, he's going to try some pragmatism. I think it's important.
No, I agree. I always been pragmatic. It's always one of the, I think, the most important things to do. But I wonder if after this podcast, he's like sitting in his room alone, like, what have I done? This is the group of people, the environment, the culture that I cultivated for my entire life. Like, it was my entire life.
Yeah, probably. Oh my god.
Because I'm
So
assuming.
sad.
I'm assuming that with Noam, even if you disagree with him, I'm assuming he's a true believer. Like, he believes in
Oh yeah, he's
stuff that he's saying, and he believes that climate change is this huge existential threat. And it's very clear that either the people, I think the people he's trying to, I think they do believe climate change is an existential threat, but most people don't behave in a logical, rational fashion. And I think expecting people to do so is foolish.
I think that's a problem on the left too. I think the left is super susceptible to the belief that people do act rationally, which
Right.
is just an incorrect assumption of the world.
Right.
It's one of the reasons why they're constantly, talking about science and science being the be-all and end-all. They have in their minds that scientists cannot possibly get it wrong. And we see so much of scientists getting it wrong now that, I mean, I admit there were times in my life when I was less skeptical of science, but now that I know more of the psychology, I know the other influences at play here. And I mean, I do think there are arguments against science being some perfect mechanism for discerning truth.
Obviously, no. I think I'd be careful with this. I would say that the idea behind science is the best idea we have for discerning truth so far. It's like capitalism.
I agree.
It's the best thing we have so far.
Yeah.
But obviously, I don't think there's a problem with the ideology. I don't know if ideology is the right word. The practice of the rules of, typical empiricism and science, the scientific method. I don't think there's any problem with the rules so far. The problem is just that when you have people involved, people are always fucked up and shitty and have their own problems, and they, behave poorly in the system, even if the system itself isn't problematic.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I agree. I think you could make an analogy to like the combustion engine. Like the combustion engine, I think is an perfect thing. It works great, but I think a lot of energy is lost to heat. I think maybe it's like around
Right.
40% energy efficiency. Science is kind of the same way. Like it's a great thing, but you have to consider that it's not totally efficient because there are these
Well,
inefficiencies. Exactly
right.
like you say. People are the
You have to
inefficiency.
consider the human flaw. That's
Yeah.
always going to be. And I think, as you said, though, I do think big problem is that the left too often is operating under the idea that people are behaving in a rational way,
Yes,
and
I
thus,
agree.
when they see people voting in specific ways, I think that's part of why they jump to racism, because they're like, well, if you're seeing this in the rational way that I believe I'm seeing it, the only possible explanation is that you're racist or you're sexist or blah 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 whatever. Where I think the right has a far better grasp of understanding that people behave emotionally
Yeah.
and irrationally.
They're so triggered by that. They're so triggered. It's so funny because I tweet about this all the time, just how the left has huge blind spots. And the whole point of talking about it is to try to see around those blind spots. And then they just feel insulted, completely irrational, fall into the what we're talking about. And
Yep.
they won't even examine it from a logical
Well-
perspective. You're like, you're not being logical. You're irrational. What? How dare you call me irrational? I'm completely logical.
No
And
one
then-
wants to accept like a world-shattering belief that like, oh, don't you know that like everyone's fucking stupid? Like, people are not operating under like logic and rationality. People like most people don't have free will. Like no one wants to accept these like pretty big, I would say, truths about human behavior.
There's another level to this too, because I do think that they are willing to accept that people are stupid and irrational as long as they're the other people. Like our team is completely logical. The other
Right,
team
well, yeah, that's
is
the-
completely irrational and stupid. Yeah.
Right, that's the normal way of thinking. This everyone that doesn't believe what I believe or vote the way I vote is stupid. I want to be clear. When I say stupid, I don't mean like low IQ.
Yeah, you do. You totally do.
No, I don't. What
Sitch is
when I
the
say-
elitist on the show,
generally
just
when
so
I
you
say
guys know.
I can be elitist, I'm 100%.
I am a man of the people.
I am 100% elitist. Okay, I have free will.
Yeah.
Okay, and you know who else has free will? The
Elitist.
people that donate to the show. But no one else in the entire human existence has free will. So I'm definitely elitist. But when I say stupid, what I mean is not that people are low IQ. What I mean is people that are either uninformed or more likely that they are just operating under their elephant rider. They're operating under their intuition and their emotion, and they're not actually taking the time to question why they believe the things that they do, to try to see if it's actually objective or basic.
Yeah. You got to get a good pal that you trust. It's going to challenge
Yep.
you. That's a good part of it too.
Well, I agree with that, absolutely. And that no one I know is really advocating to keep quiet. It's a third tactical option that's being offered, which is to say, in the same way that voting blocs like unions have been able to coordinate masses of voters and deliver them to politicians in return for certain promises, that some portion of progressives, be they leftist, former Sanders supporters, young people, Black Lives Matter protesters, whatever collective group there is.
We need a better term for like leftists.
Yeah, we do.
It's such a bad term because leftist technically means people on the left that are not liberals. It means everyone to the left. I think that's what it's supposed to mean. It means everyone to the left of liberals. But I don't think that's how it's read by most.
No, it means just anyone on the left side of the political
Right,
spectrum.
but that's
Yeah.
not what it is. We need a better. Someone needs to come up with a better term for this group of crazy ass people.
Could condition one's vote for Biden against Trump on Joe Biden delivering some goods the same way, yes, the Sunrise Movement did.
Now let's take that position. Suppose you're one of these people. Do you
It's so funny because he's like, suppose you're one of these people. Bitch, we all know what's going on here. We all know you're one of these people, okay?
Well, I agree in politics is transactional. It's funny
Yes.
that people are finally waking up to this. I was watching something just the other day of some black gentleman responding to that. P. Diddy came out and is trying to found his own black party, and they were responding to this, and having a conversation about the transactional nature of politics. You know, the Democrats are not making promises to us, and they're not keeping those promises. So I'm all in favor of that. I think that's how politics works. You either accept it or you just live in denial.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. I think the problem with a lot of the quote-unquote black issues, I hate to phrase it that way, but that's what we're talking about, is that it seemed like the country was going in a very positive direction, and it seemed like race issues were going in a positive direction. They were just going in a direction slowly, but I think that's the only way they can go. I think it's a slow change. But now with all the critical race theory and the way race issues are framed today, it's like, oh, people are expecting like someone to be president or something, and they're just gonna snap their fingers and suddenly, like, you know, wealth inequality between blacks and whites is gonna magically just in like a day just somehow even out. And you're like, no, this is something that's gonna take like generations to overcome.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've attempted to overcome it through affirmative action, but it just hasn't worked. I mean, that was the goal of affirmative action, right?
Right.
November 3rd.
Conditioned on whatever terms.
Not conditioned. Suppose that your demands were not met. Would you vote against Trump?
No, there's no persuasive value, there's no leverage if the vote is unconditional.
You wouldn't vote against Trump.
No, in this scenario, yeah.
Right.
Chomsky's totally dying inside here. He's like, Chomsky just hates Trump. You can tell he hates Trump. We got to look up some good stuff on Chomsky getting triggered on Trump.
Yeah, but it's funny. Well, what his point is that, like, he's like, well, your threat is is a hollow threat. It's an empty threat because you can't go through with it. That's what he's saying.
Right. Well, but seriously, I mean, this came up.
Let's see if I have the clip.
I don't know if you saw the thing with Ice Cube, but Ice Cube basically got some heat because he came up with another 13-point plan for the black community, and he reached out to both campaigns, and the Democrats said, we'll talk to you after the election, and the Republicans said, let's talk. What do you got? What ideas do you got? We're here to wheel and deal. We need black votes. What do you want? This is the transactional nature of politics. But when politics becomes ideological, you literally can only go to one party. And guess what happens when you can only go to one party? They can string you along for fucking ever. Like, until you can go to the car dealership across the street and buy a car, you're stuck. You're paying whatever they want to charge you.
Yep. But see, that was what was interesting, because people have been making the issue that the Republicans should be, like, the Republicans kind of fucked themselves on a lot of the immigration issue, because they could be poaching a lot of traditional conservative
The
value
establishment left has just
Hispanic
dropped
people from South
entirely.
America and
So the
Central America.
Democratic Party.
Well, they are.
And they don't.
They do, though. What do you, the numbers, Trump's
generation
numbers
ago.
with Latino voters is off the charts because Latino voters are not in favor
Okay,
of
when you
illegal
say off
immigration.
the
Seems like
charts, that's not.
You have some
Four
similarities with Jordan Peterson on
four
this issue.
Republican,
And I know that
obviously.
They're,
Yeah.
they're
You
higher
haven't talked
than
much
Mitt
about
Romney's,
Jordan
okay,
Peterson,
but
and I wanted to know if
Democrats
you
still
had
have
any
a
disagreement.
huge, overwhelming majority of them.
They're off the charts.
Okay,
You don't
it's
like
not off
my
the
you don't
charts.
like my hyperbolia? My
I don't like it.
hyperbolia?
Frankly, I
No, don't
pay
like
very
it.
little attention, but which means you want would to know about Trump Jordan wins Peterson, I think because the best- not voting for the one establishment candidate left has not just voting dropped for Biden entirely. is So the equivalent Democratic to Party putting
So it
Trump
seems like
one vote
you
ahead.
have some similarities
So your
with Jordan
choice
Peterson on
is,
this issue,
okay,
and I know that
if
you haven't talked much about Jordan Peterson, and I wanted to know if you had any disagreements with what he says.
frankly, I pay very little attention, but if you want to know about Jordan Peterson, I think the best thing I can refer you to is an article by Nathan Robinson, very sharp, acute critic in his journal Current Affairs. It's called something like The Intellectual We Deserve or something like that. I think that's basically my answer. Other than that, I don't pay any attention. I mean, there's some issues on which I probably agree with Hitler. No, it doesn't mean much.
On that subject, I think it's Aristotle, right, who says that people get the governments they deserve. Is this kind of the line? Oh, Aristotle said that people get the governments they deserve. Is this kind of what you're implying, but for intellectual?
No, I don't think people get the government they deserve. They get the government that power systems impose. That's quite different.
On the systems of power, you had mentioned in manufacturing consent the idea of the principle of bureaucratic affinity, the idea that large-scale bureaucracies will ally with other large-scale bureaucracies to sort of maintain a status quo and to aid each other, and that when
Some people have suggested that we should remove universities. And this is Jordan Peterson, for example, suggests to students, don't go to universities anymore because of the bias, because of the unitary point of views. And this is reminiscent of anarchist Ivan Illich's desire to eliminate.
Listen to what Jordan Peterson is saying. He's saying universities are dominated by the left. Now, for him, the left is anybody to the left of Attila the Hun. In fact, universities are dominated by the right. He's so far on the right that looks like the left to him. But
What a fucking idiot.
Break a hip.
But this is what leads them down this path, because since they're operating under this faulty view, since these people have literally, maybe they're not being they're not being dishonest in that. I think Gray believes this. She's cognitively dissonance tricked herself into believing this, and so the only alternative available to her is that therefore there must be a conspiracy in the DNC, in the mainstream, the capitalist conspiracy by the rich elites to prevent, all the people from getting the things they want.
Yeah. That's exactly what's going on. That's why it's so fun to watch.
Bipartisan majorities of Americans. And yet he still declines to adopt said policies. Yes, he moved someone on the Green New Deal. He went from a $1.7 trillion plan over 10 years to a $2 trillion plan over 4 years, and that is meaningful. Of course, it pales in comparison to the level of investment that many climate scientists.
$2 trillion in batteries in landfills. How does that make you feel, Sitch?
I know. So I'm looking right now. There's a poll by Washington Post. So obviously, on the left. And it says 20% of Americans said they support the Green New Deal. 20%.
20%. 1 in 5.
Yeah. 20% said they oppose it.
Oh my
This is basically
God.
a wash. And 59% said they haven't had enough. They haven't heard enough to form an opinion.
Overwhelming support. Listen to that.
Yeah, overwhelming support.
So everyone that's heard about it is split. I mean, that could just be. I mean, that's like coin toss.
So I don't know I don't know what numbers she's polling from when she claims that there's this overwhelming support.
They're just trying to make it true.
Oh, okay. Here, maybe some of this. It said like something like there's some different poll that said like 60% of millennials support it.
Oh,
There you go.
overwhelming support from
Overwhelming
millennials.
support from the people that are the lowest voting turnout. Okay.
Yeah, that's not how politics works.
Yes.
Scientists absolutely necessary for us to meet the UN IPCC goals to actually getting where we need to be in terms of degrees Celsius change.
all of this is common ground, but it's missing.
No, it isn't.
The question is, what are you intending to do on November 3rd? If you say, and you mean what you're saying, if you don't vote, put Medicare for all on your program, I'm going to give a vote to Trump. If that's what you mean, say it, okay? And then what you're saying...
You can feel it, 'cause it's so funny, because Chomsky can feel like that they're not speaking honestly. Like, he's like, just tell me what the fuck you're saying. Like, you're speaking in, like, coded terms, you're trying to softball it, you're trying to be, like, smooth out. Just tell me what the fuck you're saying. Tell me what you want, lady.
Yeah.
Because if I don't get what I want, I'm going to help the worst possible candidate into office. I think that's crazy.
Well, what is the consequence? What are the long-term consequences of everybody on the broad left, Democrats?
He kind of fucked up here. What he should have done is the first thing he said. He should have established. He should have had them on record say, "Do you believe in climate change, and do you think it's like an existential threat?" You have to solidify.
I know,
That's the
yeah,
basis
yeah.
of his argument. You have to solidify that point immediately, because then it's harder for them to kind of like play this dance game.
Yeah, they don't believe it. I'm on the. I
You don't think they do?
No, I don't think they believe it's an existential threat. I think they tell themselves that, but I don't think they honestly believe it.
I disagree. I don't know. What are you basing that on?
If you believed something like that, you wouldn't have the kind of voter turnout that you have. Like, people would show
No,
up.
I mean these two people specifically.
Well, she's talking about voting third party.
Yeah, but that again, so you're falling into the trap of assuming that they're functioning and making decisions based on rational thought.
Well, no, I'm assuming, like everyone, that they're irrational, thinking irrationally. Yes.
Right.
But I understand how fear works. Like, I've had fear of existential threats. They do drive behavior. Like, you can't help yourself when you're literally afraid of something.
Right.
Existentially, when you're.
Right.
So they're not acting as if this is an existential threat. They're not behaving in that way whatsoever.
So I think what I would say is that I'm assuming that these people logically, rationally, ask them, will say my brain believes climate change is an existential threat, but they don't feel the fear you're talking about. They don't have this strong, overwhelming emotional fear of climate change. Instead, all their emotions are focused on like systemic racism.
Well, I do think though their behavior is in line with their fear of like police brutality against blacks.
No, 100%.
Yeah. So all I'm saying is that fear, that you would see tangible behavior affect that fear, regardless of what they say, is not anywhere near the issue of climate change.
No, exactly, and that's what's so hilarious. It's like, your risk of being an unarmed person killed by the police is like less than
is lower than climate change. Yes.
Yeah, it's like I think you're more likely to be killed by like a dog.
Yeah.
Than you are like be unarmed and shot by the police or something.
Right.
But yeah, this is humans have a very bad capacity for figuring out what is a problem in their life, for focusing on the right thing. Seems like very bad to do that.
The Democrats have done a good job of fear-mongering people to the polls on the policing problem. They really have, because people do believe it. And I don't know what the polls are, but it's probably pretty high up there with what it's so crazy, because it's the perfect thing for politicians, because it's like, we'll solve a problem that doesn't exist. This will be cheap.
Right. I mean,
it's like we don't have to do anything.
That really shows how irrational people are. It's like, okay, you have the video of Floyd, dying. It's really fucked up. And just because it's like a video and there's like this image to it, you see it and you're able to create this strong emotion in your brain.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
As you said, you feel this fear that bubbles up inside of you. But with climate change, even if you believe climate change exists, there's no video of like a cop putting their knee on a glacier's neck and melting it and then making someone die. Like, there's no equivalent. There's no like visual equivalent.
There is
that
the
creates
polar
that
bear.
emotion.
They use the polar bear with like the cub. They're like
Yeah, but no one
trapped
cares.
on the.
No one gives a shit.
Oh no,
Like,
you
whatever.
can't watch that and not think. Like, as soon as you pin that to climate change, you're like, and as soon
People,
as you watch like
it
the
doesn't matter.
cub,
People are like, I've seen the polar
the
bear.
drowning
on the ice
polar
floe.
bear.
They've seen that before. They don't give a shit.
You have
Whatever.
no heart, Sage.
I don't care.
People care about the drowning polar bear.
They don't care about the drowning polar bear.
Liberals everywhere, saying that under any circumstances, we will vote for a Democratic candidate as long as they are incrementally better than the Republican candidate. Does that way of thinking contribute to the rightward shift of the Democratic Party over years? And what mechanism will ever stop that shift if we're not willing to ever, under any circumstances, leverage our votes?
So,
This is such a false view of reality, too, in history. Because I mean, she's a national press secretary for a major candidate for president. Doesn't understand the shift to the right that happened in the 80s, why it happened, and then the current shift that's going on right now. Like, you think who's saying that Obama was more conservative than Bill Clinton?
Yeah.
Because that's what she just said. That's what she just said. It's just, and then if you look at Joe Biden's,
If you're a
at least what he's
communist,
running
of
on.
course Obama's conservative. Come on. Come on.
No,
now.
but okay, I know that. Yeah, she'll probably say that Obama's conservative, but she's making the argument that Obama's more conservative than Bill Clinton, because she says the Democrats are getting pushed to the right. Which I don't know what fucking world you're living in right now. Because if you look at Joe Biden's policy platform that he's running on, it's far more to the left than Obama's was.
Yeah, and Trump being an anti-war president makes me think, like, that's pretty being pushed to the left. So, I don't know. I mean, it's issue by issue, right?
Well, I don't know if you can consider. Unfortunately, I think this is what
Oh my
Obama's
God.
classifying things as left versus right, because technically being isolationist or being pro-war shouldn't be a left-right issue. It's kind of a different issue. So you had because you had the neocons who were very focused on foreign intervention, but there's a lot of right-wing isolationism in our history. So I don't know if you can classify that as like a left-right issue.
Yeah, I look at values more than anything because I think various issues can switch party hands. Like,
Sure.
Trump is obviously, I mean, he wants the black vote. He's saying, you know, I'll do prison reform, I'll do police reform, I'll do whatever I have to do to get the black vote. So it's like, I'm not a
Yeah, but at the
partisan
same
on
time
these
he's
issues.
saying, yeah, but at the same time he's saying, you know, I'm the candidate of law and order. Blue
You don't
lives
think
matter.
blacks want law and order? I think
No,
blacks
but-
want law and order.
Okay, so the idea that's being posed is that he's saying, I don't believe that police are the issue. There's a lot to unpack when someone says that they're in favor of the law and order candidate, right? Or that they are the law and order candidate.
I guess. I mean, if you think law and order candidate means like the Gestapo, which
Well,
is
exactly,
the
that's
way
the thing,
the left frames it, but I don't think
Right,
the
because
law
that's
and
what-
order. I don't think that's what
but-
conservatives mean when they say the law and order candidate.
No. Obviously, I don't think that's what conservatives means. But I'm saying when you have candidates use vague terms, okay, without specific policy prescriptions, there's a reason that they do that.
Oh, I know. It's a very
Right, and they
good
know
reason.
right, and they know everyone's going to interpret it their own way. So I'm saying
Yeah.
when Trump says law and order, he knows that people on the right are going to interpret that as like, you know, oh, I'm pro-police,
What?
I'm anti-Black
No.
Lives Matter. I, want to stomp down on the protests and the Antifa and all that.
I
shit.
know. It's great. They interpret it that way, and then someone else interprets it.
And then the left interprets it as, I want to stop down on all the protests, illegally or incorrectly. I want to have, state troopers federal troopers in every state. I want to be fascist takeover, blah, 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 blah. I hate black people, blah, 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 blah. So that's what I'm saying. I don't see Trump pandering to the black community the way that you're describing it.
Pandering system. Come on, he's trying.
Well, what's the nice way of saying pandering?
Well, he wants their vote, and it's transactional. He's like, hey,
I don't see it. I don't see it.
I brought up my political spectrum because I just think it's interesting. So I have these 4 political spectrums that I constantly pay attention to for left and right. She mentioned one of them. That's why I brought it up. The original origin of the left-right spectrum is radical change versus no change, and she's advocating for radical change now. So I have a left-to-right spectrum for those of you just listening that has radical change on the left and ossification on the right, and the balanced position, enlightened centrist position in the center, obviously.
There you go.
But I have incremental change, which she literally said incremental change, and said it like it was a dirty word. That's why she's obviously
Right.
for radical change.
Well, that's
and
how
then
you know that she's a critical race theorist.
yeah. They in order to have, they have these beliefs that you can just, by decree, come
Yeah.
out with a new list of rules and society's not going to crumble or rebel. It's so bizarre. Like their
That you can just
understanding of
force
human nature.
people.
Yeah.
You can just force people to make these huge, broad societal changes. But this is the problem, is because since she's already operating under this conspiratorial thinking, that there's, the only thing that's keeping people down is that there's like these elites that exist in power, and they're just pushing their foot and their boot on people's necks, and all you have to do is just lift the boot, and then everyone will just stand up. Like this is the view of the world that she has,
Totally.
which is totally devoid and detached from reality.
This is a useful spectrum though, because you have people on the right, on the far, like you have bubble people on the right just as much as you have bubble people on the left. The problem with the bubble people on the left is that they work, they're writers at the New York Times. They have all this cultural power. The bubble people on the right are screaming on Twitter and don't have any power whatsoever. So that's why we tend to focus on the left.
Well, to be fair, a lot of them are in Congress.
Okay. I mean, I don't pay much attention to them, so if they're in Congress, they're probably in Congress because that's a good way to get to Congress. That goes to the point that I want to make. So the people on the right will
This is all the damage. So 2
cast
runs
incremental change
like this,
as
they'd
radical
have-
change all the time. They'll conflate those two to say, they want to do this radical change, when really it's just incremental change, and we need incremental change for heaven's sakes, or we're doomed for ossification. But
Or
the
we
peop-
die.
Yeah.
In the long run, that'll affect the Democratic Party. That's a terrible choice. Helping
It's not so bad a choice, Chomsky. What are you talking about?
No,
It's not a terrible choice.
It's funny in terms of that the radical ideologues, they always have this like really fucking stupid view that they're like, well, if I don't support, like the people like Gray and the Bernie bro people are thinking like, if Trump wins again, that's gonna force the Democrats next election to choose, Bernie Sanders or AOC or the more radical candidate. It's like that's not how any of this works.
No.
It never works that way.
Yeah, plus 4 years goes by, all these policies happen. You lose time on the field. It's terrible.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, that's what Noam Chomsky's arguing, saying you're losing all the time, all the judges, all the stuff that's happening in the field. But it's just, it seems like the problem is that the extreme ideologues, they always think that they're part of the majority. They always cast themselves as part of the silent majority, but they never are.
True. Yeah.
They're always part of the vocal minority.
She's already cast herself that way when she said the Green New Deal is like overwhelming support. Of course I'm in the majority here. Everyone wants to be a communist.
It's funny because I was looking at more of the Green New Deal polls, and so many of them, they're like, it's so bullshit. They're like, would you support or oppose policy designed to prevent pollution and climate change?
Of course. Of course.
What the fuck? Or I love this one. It's like, would you support or oppose a Green New Deal? A policy in which the federal government creates jobs and invests in low-income communities building energy-efficient infrastructure. It's like, I don't know. When you describe it like that, of course I'm going to be in favor of it. Like, it's so dumb.
It's all based on the wording. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
As soon as you do it, like, how much would you pay for something like this? And have them put a dollar figure down. And then all of a sudden you get back all your surveys and it says $0 at the bottom of every one of them.
Right.
Okay, well maybe this isn't a popular policy.
Trump, as you're proposing, would mean 4 more years of destruction of the environment, getting possibly to tipping point, which would be irreversible, certainly making any effort to deal with it very difficult. It would mean stacking the judiciary with young, ultra-right lawyers, top to bottom, so that nothing would be possibly done for generations, and I can go on and on. I don't think that's a wise choice, just on the hope that maybe
Oh my God.
I'm in the wrong temper.
That's the most condescending I've ever heard. Yeah, old man.
Oh my God.
The Democratic Party will pay attention to the fact that you're part of the 50% of non-voters. I think that's a very poor judgment.
I take that very seriously. I take the multi-generational threat very seriously. As a Black American whose family members have been living as a third tier in American society. My mother was born into an America that didn't recognize her basic human rights. In 1960, she's a relatively young woman. and obviously the kinds of the world that my grandparents and great-grandparents had to live through was much more dramatically unequal to them even that. And so what concerns me is the way in which the vote blue no matter who mindset basically privileges more recent concerns that are equally grave as more long-standing concerns that are.
Well, she's making the same exact argument as Candace Owens. What?
Can you imagine constructing that phrase? Privileges more recent concerns, even if they're grave. So that's like, for example, that's like saying there's a giant meteor hurtling towards Earth that's going to destroy all life on the planet, okay? And you have one candidate who says, we need to stop this meteor from destroying the Earth. And the other candidate says, I don't see the meteor. I think the meteor is a hoax, okay? And then Noam Chomsky says, this is obviously not the situation, this is a hypothetical, but Noam Chomsky says to this lady, hey, we got to vote for the candidate who believes the meteor is going to destroy our Earth, because if we don't, we're all going to die. And she says, yeah, but don't you think that's very privileged of you to worry about this immediate concern that's going to destroy a life, and not to concern yourself with the past history of systemic racism? It's a very slow and vague and more, not as pressing issue.
Yeah.
The privilege of
crazy.
not fucking dying. Like, are you insane? Like, this person's fucking lunatic.
I don't think she buys any of this stuff. And speak to her making exactly the same argument as Candace Owens. The only thing different between her argument and Candace Owens is Candace Owens is willing to go to the Republican Party to get whatever they can get out of them in exchange for
I
a
don't think
electoral.
that's a fair assessment of the situation.
Well, you didn't let me finish. And she's saying, I'm not going to vote Republican, but I will deny my vote to the Democrat.
I think that's even a little. I think you made a more unfair assessment.
Why?
Candace Owens' position. Because I agree with the first part that yes, Candace Owens definitely. The point that she's been repeated again and again is that
Politics is
Democrats-
transactional.
That politics is transactional, and that the Democrats have taken advantage of the black population because they know the black population will always vote for them overwhelmingly. That's
Right.
true.
And we
But-
should go to Candace Owens is saying, and we should go to the Republicans. We should see what
that's
we
the
could get
part
out
that's
of the
bullshit.
Republicans.
That's the part that's bullshit, though. Even if she says that, that's bullshit, because she doesn't actually believe that, because she buys into all of the most right-wing extreme dogma about the fact that there shouldn't be any social welfare programs, everyone has to pull themselves up by the bootstraps, everything is, blah, 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 blah. She buys into all the rhetoric, so she's not making the argument that the black community should turn to the Republican to demand the reforms she wants, because she doesn't agree with the reforms
she's
that the black
soft.
community wants.
She's soft on the demands that she wants for the black community. She's like, let's just go to the Republicans and want what they want.
Exactly.
She's soft on the demands, but
Okay.
but you have you do have other people in the black community like Ice Cube, P. Diddy doing a terrible version of it, but they're saying, listen, we have demands as a community, and we want those demands met in exchange for our vote. Politics is transactional. Get over it. I mean, it's true.
Is it okay? I'm confusing this. And it's not because I'm racist. I'm a person of shadow. I'm the most oppressed minority. Okay, of all time. I'm constantly oppressed by all light sources in existence. I always confuse Ice Cube and Ice-T, and that's because their names are the fucking same. Okay.
You racist.
Which is the one
Ice
that
Cube was in Friday.
Okay, no, I know who the people are. I have their I'm not saying I confuse the people. I'm saying, their faces. Which is the one that was posting all the anti-Semitic shit on Twitter, and which was the one that wasn't?
I think Ice-T must have been doing that, because I don't think Ice Cube is anti-Semitic. Ice Cube is the one that got mad at Bill Maher for using the N-word and giving him a retard time about it.
No, you're wrong. It's the other way around. Ice Cube is the one that was posting all the anti-Semitic.
Oh, he is? Okay, I just didn't know.
Ice-T was the one that wasn't.
Okay. First of all, I didn't know either one of them were posting anti-Semitic, but only Nick Cannon is the only black guy that I know.
Ice Cube was it was during that Nick Cannon time. Ice Cube was completely defending Nick Cannon,
Oh, okay.
and he was posting all sorts of weird anti-Semitic shit, like conspiracy, like.
Well, at least he
anti-Semitic shit.
wasn't an anti-people of shadow, right?
That's true. That's true.
It doesn't change the point that I'm making. So Ice Cube is a big fat fucking racist.
Yes, it does. He's a bigot, so that means you're
Well,
wrong.
I agree. I think most of the, I mean, P Diddy came out and said like all white people are evil. Like he's a fucking racist. Get the fuck out of here. You want to start your own black party? Go for it. I'm just saying. Politics is transactional. If you're voting and you feel like you're getting fucked over, you should probably not vote for that party.
Right. No, definitely. But the question is, and the whole issue that Noam Chomsky's making is he's saying, well, this isn't the time because we're all going to get killed by the meteor. Which is why I find this podcast so enlightening, because they claim to believe the meteor is coming, but then they act like it's not, as you say.
Because they don't believe it. My argument is that they don't believe it.
Yeah, but I think they do. But it's just, to me, this is just evidence of the fact that people don't behave rationally; they behave emotionally.
I don't know that they even believe all the race stuff. I mean, she's probably talking about.
She's a true believer. She's a true believer.
Yeah, but it's a
You don't think so?
microaggression. It's like some girl looked at me funny at a party. Racist.
Yeah, but they convince themselves that it's true.
I agree. Yeah, but they're not as convinced on the climate change. They're like, yeah, I don't really believe that one. I'll say I do because I'm talking to Noam Chomsky. But
Whalers $5 says they think they're going to push the Democrats to the left. Democrats need to win moderates, and the Dems know that these extremists will vote for them anyway. Exactly. That's why this whole idea is so stupid. That they're like, oh, it's the same thing for the people on the right. They're like, oh, the extremists who say like, oh, if we don't vote for a candidate, that's going to push our party further to the extreme. Like these people are literally delusional.
yeah, that's why this is fascinating. Because the conversation that they need to have is the one that we're having, that they will never have, because you got three extremists talking to one another, which are just in this complete, information bubble.
But it's interesting because it seems like that Noam Chomsky, even though he's an extremist, he's coming from it like he's trying to operate under his own pragmatic logic of what he believes is the most important issue, where the people he's talking to claim to agree that that's the most important issue, but then they behave as if it's not.
That's exactly what's going on.
So to me, this makes it seem like all the woke shit in the SJWs is basically like a suicidal religious cult. Who is basically willing to throw away human life in their own lives in order to push their ideology. This is how this podcast comes off to me.
Well, that's true, though. I mean, if you're
That's
suffering,
exactly what's going
your
on.
podcast is only making $28,000 a month, and you're really hard up for resources.
Right.
You're gonna think the world is against you.
Damn Collective 1 for $9.99 says the only reason you think Trump isn't helping the black community is because the voice of the black community is exclusively filtered through the left, and anyone not following that is shut down. I agree. That I sort of agree, and I sort of don't agree. I agree that a lot of the voice of the quote unquote black concerns. I hate.
What is black? I hate it too.
I know.
I listen.
But there's no. I don't know. There's no language to talk about it properly. But black concerns are generally voiced through a left-wing perspective. But I don't know. I think that's because whenever you have a situation where a group of people is in an underprivileged situation, obviously they want more government intervention. And so if you have one party that's in favor of government intervention, one party that's not in favor of government intervention, that's just the way things are going to work out.
Yes.
Built in this and says, we have to vote for X candidate to prevent X ill from happening. At the same time, those who have suffered under the status quo never seem to get an opportunity to have their issues heard, because a maintenance of the status quo is always a number one priority that will do anything to preserve. And I think that when you look at a lot of who is feeling disaffected right now, it is a lot of younger black voters who felt like there was an opportunity to pull the lever and do things the right way with Barack Obama, but who don't see any real change having materialized, and that the status quo for them just simply isn't good enough. How do we change?
See, this is why I'm telling you that this person and the woke leftists, communists, SJWs, whatever you want to call them, that these people are literally living in a suicide cult. Because she's saying, I don't care that the meteor is coming, okay? I don't care that we're about to get killed. I've been tricked by you people before, so fuck you. Like, that's basically what she's saying.
Yeah. I don't like the term status quo because I don't necessarily know. It's one of those words that you can interpret in so many different ways that it's not really useful. I mean, I realize people use it for political gain in the same way that you keep things vague because then people don't necessarily know what to expect, kind of like we were just talking about.
Oh my God.
Living under, I mean, the status quo. I mean, I just wish I knew what she was talking about. Like, is there not enough upward mobility for people? I mean, I don't necessarily know what the situation is. So, but
Right.
I think a lot of people, you know, if they explain their situation, so much of it is mindset. If you're in a bad situation, like neither of us want to see people being yoked by a bad situation for long periods of time. Like, we want to see people be able to have upward mobility and be able to make themselves a better life, and we don't want to see people, you know,
most
targeted
people,
by the police. Any of those.
Right. I think the overwhelming majority of people. I think there's a very small minority of people that are like the white nationalist super racist. Okay. Most people want to see everyone in America succeed, not only because that's just general human empathy, but also because it helps them. It helps if everyone's doing better, everyone's doing better. It's going to help them too.
Yeah.
I think people realize this. The issue, it seems to be, is how do you solve the issues of income inequality and wealth inequality, specifically among racial lines? Is that I don't think it's a question of people not saying that it doesn't exist. The question is, well, how do we fix it and why does it exist?
Well, and what
And
is the
so
status
that's the
quo?
issue.
Yeah, what is the status quo? Because if the status quo is things that we don't have the possibility to fix. The guys that I was listening to yesterday who were critiquing P. Diddy's video were saying, you know, it's a problem in our community that we have to fix. Like, it's nothing government can do, and asking the government to fix it is not the way to solve the problem.
Right. Well, I don't know. That's the thing.
I don't either. I'm not a part of that community. Like, I don't have to say. Who cares? You guys figure it out. And if you want, if there's something that the government can do to help, you know, vote for the party that's going to give you that thing. But I don't see people asking for stuff. I mean, the prison reform is an interesting situation because somebody said, you know, it was a specific thing that they could ask for. Healthcare is a specific thing, but this grievance stuff. Well, I mean, what do you want? You want like are police supposed to smile now? Do we have to like what do you want?
Well, this is why I hate the term systemic racism, because basically it's been constructed by critical race theorists where they say if we can look at any outcome and see that there's some disproportionate process, any sort of disproportionate results based on race, there must be some type of racism inherent in the system somewhere.
Yeah.
And they keep jumping back and forth between, well, that means that the police are racist, or maybe it means the laws are racist. Like, you can't ever pin it down, because then when you go through it with them, they keep jumping, because they're operating on the axiom that, no, it's already racist just because of the outcome. And there could be a very good reason for why the outcome exists that should be solved, definitely a problem, but that doesn't have to do with this, like, weird thinking of, like, it's racism.
Well, not even. I don't know. Can you really solve it if it's something that the population doesn't really want to solve? That's the problem that I have. Because
Well, of course you can. Well, first of all, we don't know what the problem is.
What the problem is,
Clear
yes, exactly.
grasp on what the problem is.
Yeah.
Because it's so politicized. Because you have the left says that the problem is racism, and then that jumps into what exactly is racism. Is it individual racism? Is it systems of racism? It's all super fucking vague. And then, you know, the right says, well, no, it's culture is negative. It's the marriage rates. It's, you know, X, Y, Z. And I think you could try. At least if we could figure out what the problem is, you could at least try it. But no one can agree on what the problem is. And that's the first thing.
There's a disparity in interest for sports between men and women. if you
Right.
categorize that as a problem that needs to be fixed, you create all these other problems.
Exactly, but that's no one cares about that. Right.
Right, but that could be happening in other areas too. Like no one's defining the problem clearly enough that you can see that.
Yeah, exactly. And we have to make sure that the shout out to Nathan Margolis. Adam, you're so bad.
Here you go.
Shout
Look.
out to Nathan Margolis for running the Quick channel. If you want to watch clips of the streams instead of watching us talk for 24 hours straight, click the link in the description below. Make sure you subscribe and check out the highlights of the stream.
It's actually better now because I think we have like 1,000 viewers. So
So check it. I actually had a friend of mine yesterday who just said, he's like, Sitch, I'm so glad you have that clip channel. Because I talk to your dumb ass enough in real life that I don't want to hear you talk for 48 hours on end. So it's nice to just hear the little bits, the little pieces, and I'm like, you're welcome.
I was trying to think how many hours we've actually hung out because if we're on show 107 and like our average show is 5 hours, man, we've logged quite a lot of time together.
I mean, I think by common law, me and Adam are already married, so you know.
Well, my wife will probably have a problem with that. I don't know, the state of California
You know, you
might have
spent
a
more
problem with
time
that.
with me than your wife, Adam. Okay.
Not true. It's not true. I've probably spent more time at the grocery store with my wife than I've spent with you.
Oh no.
She takes forever at the fucking grocery store.
Women, am I right?
I
fellas?
know, fellas.
Am I right,
fellas? Are you like? What is it about the grocery store? We're in and out.
That we keep that pattern from recurring, so voters have some confidence that pulling the lever isn't just going to maintain the status quo, but do something more.
So,
And she defines.
This is
the
the
status quo
worst.
by saying she wants
It's just
more.
a TIE fighter. No, it was a player. TIE
More
fighter.
what? Women should watch more sports? I'm with you. Women should watch more sports. I say we put together one of those chairs from the Clockwork Orange and make them watch it.
There you
Problem
go.
solved.
what you're saying is, in order to get my voice heard, what I will do is help put into office
Yeah,
a candidate
basically this is
who is
blackmail.
dedicated
We're gonna blackmail
destroying
Joe
progress
Biden into giving
human
us
life on Earth.
communist progress.
Oh my
This is
God,
fucking
a
great.
moment of silence. Did you guys miss that part of Trump's campaign promise where he said, "I will destroy"?
People have been telling me that I am the very best at destroying all human life on the planet.
The prospect of human life. It's even worse.
The prospect of human life.
Not only will human life be annihilated, just the mere prospect of coming back will be destroyed.
What's so interesting about this conversation is that she never denies that.
She's just, dude, she's like, Grandpa had too much Metamucil today. Come on, he's drunk.
Now, see, I think that's the big disagreement. You think that she doesn't believe. I think she does believe that, but she doesn't.
We'd have to dig in. Maybe she believes it. I don't know. I feel like they just give lip service to all this stuff. They're not worried about climate change.
By racing towards environmental catastrophe.
You hear Sitch over there Googling. Sitch is
Type
like,
it.
I'm going to
Type
find
in her
out.
name and
I'm going to
climate
find
change,
out.
we'll
I'm
figure
going
it
to find out. She's the head of the climate change. She's an ambassador to the climate change accord.
Who is stacking the entire judiciary with young lawyers who, for a generation, will be able to block any progressive
Oh
legislation.
my God.
Who will
How bad is it? How bad is it? How bad is it? Give us the straight dirt. Come on, we gotta know.
Oh my God. So this is from last December.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Almost a
From
year
last
ago.
December.
She could have changed her mind, Sitch.
So some lady named who is this? I don't know this one. I don't know. Some lady says, some blue check mark on Twitter says, if you're in a mental state where any of the top Democrat candidates running for president is some kind of existential threat to humanity, please seek help. You may think one will lose, you may disagree with them on policy, but none of them are Armageddon. Get a grip. Okay?
She wrote that?
And then,
Gray?
no. This is someone else wrote this.
Okay.
And then she retweeted that and said, when you don't take climate change seriously. Okay.
Oh my God.
And then under it, directly under it, she posts a picture that says the Sunrise 2020 presidential candidate scorecard, and it has Bernie Sanders as an A and Joe Biden as an F minus. Okay.
On climate
So-
change?
Yes.
Really?
So, in December of 2019, this lady who's now speaking, Noam Chomsky, is saying that climate change is an existential threat that will bring Armageddon to the world, and that Joe Biden is just not strong enough on the environment. Okay, so she makes this argument that it is an important issue.
It's political expedience right there. And also
Right.
just the fact that she tweeted that means she's never going to vote for Joe Biden. Like, she can't. She's put herself in a box here. Because he gets an F on climate change. So voting for Joe
Right.
Biden is the same as voting for Trump. You might as well vote for Trump. Yeah. Why didn't she just say Chomsky? Why didn't she just show Chomsky that tweet? She's like, listen, Joe Biden is an F on climate change, Chomsky. Get a grip.
Will continue to dismantle the arms control regime, which is somewhat protecting us from nuclear war. Who will? I can go on and on. I will do.
Yeah, I don't get that. So he's saying Trump is dismantling something that's like Trump is going to get us into a nuclear war. It sounds like he's saying Trump is not a neocon, so I don't know.
do that because that'll help me get my voice heard. No, sorry, it won't.
Professor, I wouldn't argue that I am helping Trump. I would argue that if the Democratic Party, if Joe Biden as a candidate were unwilling to concede these very common sense concessions that would help him in electoral context and would also be the right thing to do, that it is he who would be enabling Trump, and that framing the onus as decidedly on the voter instead of the politician who's in a position of power to actually affect the outcome is wrongly doing a kind of voter shaming that continues to have the effect of suppressing the vote among people who are, I think, very valiantly asking for a better world.
I mean, she's
And yes,
correct.
There's so much
How
going
is
on.
she
Inside-
wrong? How's she wrong, sir?
She's 100% wrong. Everything she said is wrong. There's so much going on here. Okay. So first of all, she's operating under the classic leftist lens of everything in the world has to be viewed through power. Okay. Joe Biden.
Well, that part's bullshit.
And C are these, the powerful, and the people voting for them are the powerless. And so
It's
therefore,
opposite, but
Joe Biden and the DNC have like the power to oppress the individual voter. So how dare you blame the oppressed Chomsky? That's what she's saying. Okay. And then on top of that, again, this goes back to her. She's operating under fake conspiratorial information. She keeps framing this incorrectly, and Chomsky never counters this. And I don't know if he doesn't care. I don't know if he doesn't know. I don't know if he agrees with her, but she keeps saying, "Oh, the overwhelming American people agree with the most far leftist Green New Deal and environmental changes," which is a lie. It's a total fucking lie. They don't.
yeah, that's why Biden scores an F, because Biden knows they disagree.
Right, and that conforms with the polling, where people don't care that much
Totally.
about climate change.
Biden is like, I need votes. I'm out there for votes, and people aren't voting for this, so fuck off.
Right, and that's why Bernie's.
That's why Bernie lost.
Yeah, that's why Bernie. Exactly. That's why Bernie lost. This is what I hate. These fucking people are so stupid. Okay, because they're like simultaneously like every American.
Oh, no.
With Bernie Sanders' platform. Yet he fucking got blown the fuck out during the primaries. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, lady. Like, and then she's like, well, that's because the institutions of power just trick people into voting against their own.
Hypnosis. The media.
They trick everyone. It's like, okay, well. It's weird because they're simultaneously making the argument that people are smart enough to agree with them and know what are the important issues, but then stupid enough to vote against their interests.
Yeah,
They're making
that's-
these like
that's
counter
not true.
arguments here.
Yeah, it is delusional what they're saying, but she is making the argument though, and this is where I say she's right. She's making the argument that politics is transactional, and that you should be trying to get
Deals.
something out of your candidates, and if your
Yeah.
candidates are not willing to give you that something,
Yeah.
then you.
But in this case,
need
it's
to
more
find
like
other candidates.
if
or,
you're-
it's a negotiation.
this is more like blackmail.
Right, but
The place where she's incorrect is that she believes that what everyone wants climate change, and that's why
Well, no, everyone wants critical race theory,
whatever it is that they want,
socialism,
right?
Whatever.
What they want, they believe everybody wants.
Right.
And really, the truth is nobody wants it. That's why they can't. She's even saying, this is just a tiny, just a itty bitty little concession. Communism. Like, come on. You got to ask for something that. Well, first of all, you have to build a coalition that you can actually deliver to the candidate. It's funny. I honestly, it's like Ice Cube is coming out with a proposal. P Diddy's coming out with a proposal. They obviously think that they have some sway in the black community, and they can deliver those votes to somebody.
Right. Well, but there's another issue too that everyone talks about, which is that this is Noam Chomsky's point, and this is why this lady's a fucking idiot. Okay. If she was making the argument that like, oh, we should hold out to try to push our candidate in the direction we want, and then we'll vote for them, that'd be a little bit more of a convincing argument. Though Chomsky was saying, well, but you're not gonna not vote for him, so it's not. But the point is that he's basically saying, you have one candidate who's saying, I'm going to give you 20% of what you want, or 50% of what you want, and the other candidate is going to not only not give you none of what you want, he's going to take the thing you want, and he's going to take his dick out and pee on it. Okay? He's gonna, right in front of you, he's going to take the thing you want, he's going to crumple it up on the floor and piss all over it, and then spit on your face and say, bitch! Okay, that's one candidate. The other candidate's going to take the thing that you want, they're going to rip off the corner of it, and they're going to give you the 25% of the thing you want. Okay, that's the choice that's happening right now. And she's saying that she would rather take the piss on and nothing than 25% of what she wants. And that's the irrational choice to make.
This is human psychology, though. I mean, how many experiments are there? Like, people pay to punish. What's the dictator game that they do in psychology? Like, people get pissed off. They'd rather take the piss in the face than take a bad deal.
Well, that's what's interesting. Is that
it's consistent.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's my argument. Is that people are acting emotional, not logical. They're just angry, and they feel like if they'd rather be fucking angry. I think what's going on too. A lot of the Bernie bros, they'll be okay with Trump winning because they feel like the DNC betrayed them.
Deserves it, yeah. Okay. They want to see Trump
like,
piss all over them. They're like, take that.
Right. So they're like, I don't care if Donald Trump takes his dick on a piece of my face because I know he's gonna be peeing on the face of the fucking neoliberal shill right next to me too.
I know. How do you like that?
How do you like that, you fucking betrayer? Like, that's what's so funny about this. That's what's so insane about this. Zora Majora for $5 says, 4 chapters into the righteous mind, and it's scary how much it explains. Sitch is right about everything. Thank you.
What?
Including the ending of Watchmen and S-Class.
First of all, Sitch would have never read The Righteous Mind if he hadn't have met me.
That's true.
Let's throw that out there.
But as we talked about in previous streams, part of the reason that you initially liked my videos is that you realized that I had accidentally, intuitively fallen upon the same philosophy as Jonathan Haidt's philosophy. I just didn't have the correct words in science to back it up.
If you can't explain it rationally, then you don't know it. So
maybe Sargon is right. We didn't need science. I intuitively stumbled onto moral philosophy.
Sargon did the same thing because Sargon had read The Righteous Mind and he kind of knew it intuitively. I always am suspicious when I hear things like Haidt type stuff that people know without Haidt. I'm always bewildered by it because I'm a big idiot. Like I don't learn anything without a book.
Joe for $4.99 says you're supposed to put the ice cube in the iced tea, Sitch, not the same thing.
Ooh.
There you go. That's a good way to remember it. True.
That's not a good way to remember it.
Paradox for $1 says, Adam, yes, politics are transactional. This isn't transactional, though. They share a belief a meteor is coming, and Brianna will hold that meteor over Biden's head to get racial socialism. This isn't a transaction. This is blackmail. Oh, Paradox.
It's only blackmail, though, if Biden...
Paradox. Oh, I just came how true that was. Oh. Paradox spitting the
This is-
truthiest, most straight truth he's ever spit. in his
This
life.
is an important distinction to make, folks. I'm going to lay some knowledge on you here. What the belief is can affect politics more than whether or not that belief is actually true. Take money in politics, for instance. Like every scientific study they've done about money in politics shows that money absolutely has no effect on politics. That it's a reverse thing. The candidate that is more charismatic.
Well, wait.
Hey, no, let me finish. Let me finish. No well in between. Come on, let me get to the. Let me actually get to
I'll
the
let
end
you
of my
finish.
thought here.
Let's do this, Vanguard Squadron.
What was I saying now?
Money doesn't have effect on us.
Okay. So it's exactly the opposite. Every scientific study that's been done shows that the more charismatic candidate ends up raising more money because they're more charismatic. It's not the money that's winning the election, it's the charisma. Now you can argue with that all day long, but the perception that money in politics affects everything does affect the fundraising, because candidates who perceive someone will give them more money and perceive that it's the money that's winning the election, not necessarily them, that can affect elections. That people are able to be bribed, even though they're being bribed with something that really isn't affecting the election that much. So now, go ahead. What is your retort
no.
on the money?
My retort is that I think you're phrasing it too broadly. 'Cause I don't know what studies you're. I think I'm vaguely familiar with the study where you're saying that there's no direct correlation between money and whether people vote for the candidate that spends the most money.
Yeah,
That's what you're referring
they cover it in Freakonomics. They cover all this stuff.
Right. But that's not the same as saying that money doesn't have an influence on politics. Because I would.
It does.
There's the other
It has
study.
a tangible influence on politics. I am saying that.
No. But there's another study that I believe you're familiar with, where it showed that the effect the money has in politics is not on who people vote for; it's on the lobbyists that lobby the lawmakers has a huge effect on it, and that the voters actually have very little.
Yes, this is my point. You understand my argument? Seems like
No, I'm
maybe
just.
you don't.
I understand you weren't saying that, but I'm saying that's why I wouldn't.
I'm
use
saying that the
phrase,
politicians
money
get
doesn't
down-
affect
hold on.
politics.
Money
That's
very
too
very
broad.
much money. My argument is that perception drives politics more than actual truth does. That's my
Right.
argument.
I agree.
Because the standard congressman will get down on his knees, go to town on the lobbyists, give them whatever they want, right? Suck. Got to get
Right.
that money in my campaign coffers. It's just ironic that the money in the campaign coffers is not really that effective. But they still do it. It's the perception that's driving that, even though it's not actually tangible.
Yeah, but a lot of that money they get, it's not even for election. It just goes straight into their pocket.
Oh, you think so?
Corruption. Yes.
You think so?
100% I think not only does a lot of the money go straight into their pocket, but also a lot of. I mean, this is why we see so many politicians. What happens after after they're politicians, they leave office and they work for some bullshit consulting firm where they get paid millions of dollars to do fuck all. You know?
I would love it if the left actually focused on that instead of saying they simplify it down to the candidate that has the most money wins. You know, ads win elections. I think they do this because it gives them a plausibly deniable argument why they had the better candidate and lost. It's like, our candidate was great, but if they only had more money, they would have won against this candidate. When really, their candidate just wasn't great.
The vote, the only real tool they have to directly communicate with their elected officials to influence.
Totally wrong. That's the established view, and you shouldn't buy into it. The vote is not the only tool you have.
Well, one of the only. I didn't say exclusively.
It's the least.
She did say exclusively.
Did she? Nice catch.
She said the only tool.
If the Democratic Party, if Joe Biden as a candidate were unwilling to consider the politician who's in a position of power to actually affect the outcome, is wrongly doing a kind of voter shaming that continues to have the effect of suppressing the vote.
Isn't it? I love that this is now the term voter shaming. I've never heard this term in my life, and then now all of a sudden people are like, oh, stop voter shaming me. Oh, it's my if I'm not voting. Oh, you're voter shaming me. Everything's shame.
I love it. I actually love the voter shaming.
I am gonna voter shame you. I'm gonna shame the fuck out of you.
People, I'm totally susceptible to voter shaming. Are you
People
kidding me?
need more shame in their lives. Okay.
No, they don't. Come
Yes,
on.
they do. People need to be shamed more in their lives. We need the fucking lady from Game of Thrones out on the street with the bell, shaming all these fucking idiots every day.
I don't think it works though. Listen, I think
Are you
voter
just-
shaming,
societal shaming works.
voter shaming does suppress the vote. Shaming doesn't. No, I totally
you think
disagree. I don't
voter
think
shaming
works
suppresses the vote? How does that make any sense?
because people are like, fuck you. People rebel. They don't want to be voted. They're
I
like,
don't think most
shaming me,
people-
motherfucker. I'm not gonna vote for who you are.
I don't think most people have your innate instinct to rebel.
Yeah, they do.
No, I don't.
Of course they do.
I don't think they do. I think we need more shaming.
Read the last super chat because it's on money and politics.
Malcolm. I'm actually right here. Daniel Collective 149 says Stitch is right. There you go, Stitch is right.
Ask yourself why Biden had a $3 million tax bill.
I'll read. Stitch is right. Ask yourself why Biden had a $3 million tax bill. It wasn't for his salary while in public office. I'll tell you that.
Yes,
I'm
but
sure
that's the argument that I make. If it's corruption, yes, you should weed it out. But to make the argument that the candidate with the most money in the bank wins the election every time, that's what, the Young Turks talks about this all the time. That's what they're talking about when they talk about money in politics.
So, when you said voter shaming, okay, let's be clear. When I've heard voter shaming, I'm not talking about saying, oh, if you're voting for Trump, I'm shaming you.
Yeah, no, that's what they're talking about, though.
No, I don't think that's what they're talking about. That's not what the leftists are talking about. Because why would the far leftists be against shaming people that are voting for Trump?
If you vote for Trump, you're a racist. That's voter shaming. That is totally voter
Okay,
shaming.
hold on a second.
If you vote for
Back
Trump,
up.
you're one of the deplorables. That's
Back
voter
up a
shaming.
second. Why would the far leftists, who label Trump as the white nationalist, fascist, racist, not want to shame people for voting for him?
Well, they do.
Okay, so
Yeah.
obviously that's
Oh,
not
they're
what
huge-
she
so
or
you're
the
s-
leftists are talking
you're
about when they say
saying-
voter shaming.
You're saying no, they're just huge hypocrites. Of course, they're
They're
like,
talking
we
about-
don't want to be voter shamed. We want to voter shame you.
When they complain about voter shaming, they're referring to people shaming Bernie or bus people or
For
leftists
not voting, yeah.
for not voting at all. That's what
Right.
they're referring. That's
Or
what I'm
for
talking
not voting for the candidate that they should vote for. But it's the
right,
same
or for
thing
voting,
with Trump.
voting for a third party candidate or not.
It's the same thing with Trump, though. If you're saying you're a racist if you vote for Trump, it's voter shaming. You're doing the same exact thing.
Right. So that's what I'm referring to.
I'm not in
referring
favor
to
of
shaming
that.
people for voting for Trump. That's
I'm not. Notice I'm on the record. I'm not a fan of voter shaming. There shouldn't be voter shaming. But
Malcolm McKee for 5 Canadian says money buys a ground game via state campaign apparatuses, but is often spent inefficiently. Inefficiously? Not familiar with that word. There's a diminishing return on investment.
yes, that is correct.
That is true. So,
Once you meet a certain standard, like all bets are off.
oh my god, inefficacious. There you go.
Is that really what he meant, though, or did he really mean
Yeah,
inefficient?
efficacious. I'll be honest.
Does it really mean
that
the
word.
same as inefficient?
Successful in producing a desired or intended result. Effective.
Malcolm. Check out the big brain on Malcolm.
Check out the big brain on Malcolm. Thank you.
Who are, I think, very valiantly asking for a better world. And yes, using the vote, the only real
Daniel Collective for $1.99 says, okay, I retract. Adam is right and always has been. Always
I know.
has been right.
I purposely didn't read
Well, you got to have it in the right spot in the podcast. So.
I know.
What are you doing?
I know. I was trying to hide it.
The animal. My man.
world. And yes, using the vote, the only real tool they have to directly communicate with their
Using the vote, the really only tool they have to only real tool they have.
Or elected officials.
They're talking about activism being the other tool. Come on.
No, but she then says that. That's
I know.
I didn't say the only tool.
She contradicted herself.
To influence.
Totally wrong. That's the established view, and you shouldn't buy into it. The vote is not the only tool you have.
Well, one of the only. I didn't say exclusively.
Oh my God, that's so good. That is so
Yeah.
good.
I mean, you could say.
Good catch.
Well, it's just stupid. It's like, yeah, she can go back. She can say, oh, well, I misspoke. But she's like, no, I didn't say that.
Missile inbound.
Well, he did set up the entire podcast by saying, this is the Republican view of the world. That really all you have is the vote. You're supposed to step back.
Do you
Don't go out and
agree?
do
I don't.
You're locking onto me.
I've never heard of. I don't know. To me, this is a weird argument. Maybe because I'm not a fucking leftist activist. I've never really heard this concept of like, oh, you vote and then that's it, and you never do anything else beyond that. I've never really heard this being argued by anyone, really.
Well, I mean, the activism, the left is pretty much known for activism, and the right is, I mean, I guess the Tea Party thing was on the right, and it was, they had just as
I'm
much
sure you have all the
activism, so-
anti-abortion people. There's lots of activism going on the right.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I don't,
Right.
no. you're spinning yarns here. There's plenty of activism on the right. What are you talking about?
That's
Those
what I'm saying.
abortion
I've never-
people never go away after the
But
election.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't really understand his argument. I've never heard this before.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Look at the big brain on Sitch. He's totally bringing down Chomsky.
I'm smarter than you, old man. I'm smarter than you, Virgil, Texas. My ego is unmatched. Okay.
Of the tools that you have. That's the establishment view. You're a spectator, not a participant. Do the vote, go home.
Oh, okay. He didn't say it was the right one. He says it's the establishment view.
It's bullshit. It's total
I
bullshit.
don't know. I never really heard that.
What did Benjamin Franklin say after they got done signing the
Benjamin
Declaration?
Franklin is not the establishment, Adam. Okay.
Oh, really?
No, he's a rebel.
He
He was
established.
off in France banging prostitutes. Like
He
99% of the time.
established the United States of America, for heaven's sake.
It's the establishment by definition.
He was a writer of the Constitution.
Okay.
He
You got
said-
me there.
He
Got
said
me there.
he said a republic if you can keep it. I don't think he was pro-activism. Come on.
Yeah, you got me there.
The real politics is constantly working to change the conditions under which political figures will be compelled to shift their views. That's real politics. Everyone
You gotta get him in that hotel room with the blows and the hooker. Come on, we know how to
That's
how to
when
get
you get-
healthcare passed.
That's when you get real change. Yeah.
once in a while, an event comes up called an election. You have to take 10 minutes to decide, am I going to keep the worst guy off, or is it not worth bothering? Often it's not worth bothering. Now, this time it is very much worth bothering. And we have a choice. Will I take 10 minutes to get rid of a true monster who's going to have devastating effects, or will I not do it? Because maybe someday that will help make my voice be heard under far worse circumstances.
Not according to James Lindsay.
Maybe a lot of this too is because since they're like a bit communist, that a lot of this is accelerationism. They think, things have to get so bad for the revolution to occur.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah, totally. That's what they don't want incremental change. Incremental change is bad in their eyes.
Well, yeah, because incremental change stems the tide of communism, basically.
This whole conversation is basically Chomsky just giving them a huge orgasm about how society's totally gonna fall apart, and they're like, oh yeah, keep
This
saying
is-
it. Tell them how it is.
This is what's so despicable about critical race theory and a lot of the way race issues are handled today, because it's so much of it is really race activists trying to smuggle communism in without saying that they're smuggling communism in.
True.
And that's where a lot. I mean, that's why the critical race theorists is part of why they're so against incremental change, because incremental change prevents the revolution.
Empire's got another.
It's so bizarre because the incremental change is working. It's so working. It's working exactly how
But they don't want
Marx
to work.
predicted it as well. Well, no, I guess Marx did talk about like the cataclysm, you know, the
Yeah, he thought everything was
underclass.
going to collapse.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
Which never happened, which is part of the problem.
yeah. He didn't.
His prediction was way off. Yeah.
If he would have thought of it in incremental change, like it's definitely going to happen. As far as you know, I think UBI is inevitable.
I love this mode. This mode is fucking great. I mean, not
Sooner or later,
AI, but
robots are gonna take over
this is a great
every
mode.
job.
It's like a tug
You
of
want to
war.
know what's terrifying? Karl Marx, if he was like alive today, or if modern technology existed in his time period, he'd just be some fucking shithead on Twitch, on BreadTube,
totally. Yeah.
spouting like dumb shit. Okay, that is literally the caliber of person that he basically was, and yet he's created this philosophy that is so influential in the world.
Purely by accident.
By accident.
Crazy.
Sad.
That's a choice. It's not a matter of just a vote. What you do if you sample is say,
I didn't put a dent in it.
what the fuck? I'll take 5 minutes to do it. Then I'll go back to the kind of real politics which changes consciousness, awareness, environment, sets the conditions under which any political figure will have to react. That's left politics. None of this business about concentrating on the election the way the establishment wants it. And certainly if the choice now is between 4 more years of monstrous activities which may actually destroy the prospects for human life on Earth, and will certainly make doing anything we want far more difficult. The choice
Oh my-
between that
What the
or
fuck?
voting
How can I?
against him.
How
and
can I even
then
put a
going
dent on
back
this
to
shit?
the activist
What am I
work
doing wrong?
that changes
Well, now I
conditions
didn't put my
and will
shields
propel
forward,
them
but
to move towards
that's not why.
That's the choice. You don't concentrate
Why is
on the
every
vote, at
time
least
a suicide?
that's establishment propaganda.
Professor, you mentioned earlier that activism has moved Biden to the left over the course of the general election campaign. That's curious to me because what I've seen is Biden resisting moving to the left. One famous note, out of the DNC Unity Commission, the Sanders-Biden Unity Commission, one of the recommendations was postal banking, letting the post office operate as essentially a credit union. And it was reported that Biden made a phone call to the bank and told them, don't worry about that. That's just something for the warrant people. We're not actually going to do that. So my question to you is, how has Biden moved to the left?
Very clear. What
I like that. He's like, yeah, this is bullshit. We're just telling the Warren people that, so they'll vote for us. We're not really gonna give it to them.
I like the idea. This is basically what I'm envisioning. You have the meteors coming towards the planet, and they're like, okay, we need to all work together to destroy the meteor. And then you have Virgil, Texas, and Ray. They're like, okay, that's fine, but we have to make sure that there's an equal representation of ethnic, racial backgrounds on the spaceship to destroy the meteor. Because otherwise, you know, it's not fair. Like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
We have a little more pressing concerns than that.
you're saying is he didn't move as far as you wanted. True, he didn't move as far as I wanted. But take a look at the program. So you look at the campaign, take say climate change, most important. His program is way to the left of any previous one. Certainly to the left of what the DNC wants. Calling for
You thought I wasn't going to show up?
nowhere near far enough, but much farther to the left. I can quote it for you if you want, or you can look it up. Same on other issues. Not as far as I would like, but it has been moved. Same is true of everyone in the past. Lyndon Johnson didn't go as far as I would have liked on civil rights, but he went farther than anything in the past.
Can you imagine these two people back during the civil rights saying we shouldn't vote for Lyndon Johnson because sure he like made it so black people can vote and have equal rights and all this stuff, but it's not enough. Okay, and if we just hold, if we just hold out a little longer, maybe
Jesus,
somehow we'll get the
nothing.
changes, the more extreme changes that we want.
We're gonna lose this.
Yeah, who wants the right to vote when we need
I can
communism?
get the power shield, power system.
What we really
Can
need
get
is
target.
communism.
We're just scratching the shields every time.
As far as I wanted on protecting workers' rights, but he went to the left pressure. That's how politics work.
I guess I can
Yes,
take the
it
fighters.
won't be as far as we like.
I'll try to take the
Therefore, we'll
fighters.
Not, it didn't go as far as I like.
Just stay away
Therefore,
from them.
I'll support the worst guy. Remember, those are the choices. You have a choice of supporting Trump or voting no. You don't have any other choice on November 3rd. Now, take a look at Biden's program. It actually moved enough to the left so that the DNC has been trying to cut it back. So now it's pushing farther to the left. That's what activists have been doing. And that's what they continue to do. But we have a simple choice on November 3rd. Shall I take 5 minutes to vote against a major monster who will put us in hideous conditions, or shall I not take those 5 minutes? And
So I've been looking up this claim that he made.
You're not paying attention?
No. So guess where this claim came from?
That Trump is a
That-
monster and that it only
No,
takes
no, no,
5
no.
minutes to vote? He's really selling this. He's like, in one hand, you have 15 seconds of your time. And in the other hand, you have an existential threat. You have a kaiju on the beach, nuking people.
You have Godzilla is approaching, and you got to vote to build the giant Neon Genesis mech suit to fight against it. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, I was looking up the claim that Virgil, Texas made about that Joe Biden said that he would be he'd be on board with having the banks operate as, the post office operating as some sort of banks, which I don't know enough about to even dare form an
Isn't
opinion
it
on that
so amazing that
whatsoever,
our intuitions are tuned to, like, I don't know, maybe it's a good idea. You know,
Like,
if you go
no
to the
clue,
post
like-
office,
Yeah.
But if you're on the left, it's like, what? Bank? Triggered! Bank?
Yeah, it's like I'm just like, okay, I don't know. I don't know why you would do that. I don't know why you wouldn't do that. I have no clue about that. But anyway, so then he says, but apparently, Joe Biden is telling Wall Street that that's all a lie. Okay, so I'm like, oh, okay. I'm curious what the source is. So the source is that a single anonymous investment banker claimed that he heard that this was the case.
Oh my god, it could have been a troll.
Which, first of all, I'm thinking, okay, first of all, we all know how bad, quote-unquote, anonymous sources are nowadays. Like, anonymous sources say anything. But secondly, why would an anonymous investment banker reveal something that would hurt the side that's supposed to be supporting him?
Yeah,
Right?
totally.
That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
So... But anyway, I just think it's funny that when, in this debate, they're having this debate about, like, whether the existential